If I wanted to become the #1 poker player in the world, would I repeat that? Probably not, but life was more fun that way.
Today we are joined by high-stakes poker player, content creator and entrepreneur Elias Gutierrez. Elias began his poker journey at the cash game tables, where he successfully climbed the ranks to high stakes.
Maybe I'm not the best poker player in the world, but I can still study 3 hours a situation and I can tell you everything about it because I know how to study the situation.
Along the way, he discovered a passion for content creation, which led him to transition into MTTs.
Imagine you have 10 million videos under 60% audience retention. You are at 61%, but you are on top of 10 million videos.
Now he's closing in on 500k subscribers on YouTube, owns one of the largest Spanish-speaking poker schools, and continues to compete at the highest levels.
I learned that it is very important to separate your days between management days and maker days. And then on top of that, you create seasons.
He has won multiple scoop titles, a W Coup, and recently won back-to-back 25k high rollers at EPT Cyprus, profiting over €1 million this year alone.
So first of all, I just wanted to make enough money so I could just be left alone. I didn't enjoy the game of poker as much as I enjoyed being good already at other video games. It's just that those video games would not make money. I was very into hats. I used to have a hat with 1,200 stats in 2013 with 20 pop-ups. I find myself very surprised when I read certain things on social media from people who clearly don't know what they are saying. First of all, you're not understanding where he's coming from. The other guy is not understanding what the other guy is thinking. You both are way too dumb to have a conversation and understand each other. Why do you even talk? That kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Thank you guys for tuning in to what's going to be another great episode of the Mechanics of Poker podcast. Quick announcement, we have seats open for our Mechanics of Poker coaching program. If you want to work with me and Adam and have us help you make more progress in your poker career, you can apply using the link down below or go over to mechanicsofpoker.com. Without further ado, guys, enjoy this episode. Elias, your poker journey, it started back in 2010, I believe, at the online cash game tables. I was wondering what first drew you to the game, and at what point did you realize that this could actually be a profession that you would pursue?
Okay, basically, it all started when I was looking for a job that I could do that depend on my skill and not on somebody else. I was in a situation where I started 3 careers. I left the 3 of them the first year because I was increasingly feeling depressed as I was studying the careers and imagining how my life would be like after I finished them. So I was seeing my future, the kind of future I would have having those jobs, as extremely depressing. I was studying things I didn't care about. Just I felt forced to choose something. I didn't know what I really wanted to do. I only knew that I had fun when I was a teenager playing strategy video games, but that didn't translate to any real job at the time. Twitch didn't exist like it does today. Content creators were not a thing yet in 2010. It was starting maybe a couple of years later, but I was not even interested on doing anything like that at the time. I was just seeking I don't know, something that I could do that wasn't depressing, that could create any future where I could control my time, the way I work, and feel good about life in general. I didn't see that. I didn't see that in any option. Poker came up as a very random option. I played a game of poker with a few friends, One night, I lost very fast. It was very boring to see everyone play for 2 hours after I busted very quickly because I didn't know what I was doing. I got home. I was searching information on how to play. So the next time I joined them, I could at least last longer. And then I found the forums of IntelliPoker at the time, and they had these threads of people speaking about going up levels, learning how to make money. They were having those conversations in the forum, and I saw that, and I realized maybe there is something here. So I started exploring the game. Yeah, it was like that how it happened.
What was your goal like starting out when you started out playing quote quote professionally? Did you have like a specific vision for where you wanted to go, or did you take it more like one step at a time?
It was clearly independence. So first of all, I just wanted to make enough money so nobody else could tell me what I needed to do. That was the first thing, because I felt that I had to do things I didn't want to do, but I had to because at the time there was not the option to not do anything. And I believe that wasn't the best approach for a person in the situation I was in. I think if I have a kid in the future and they don't know what to do at 18, I think it would not be the end of the world if they take a year off to think and explore options and understand what is behind an option, because the issue is having options but not knowing anything about what's in there if you actually follow that path. So for me at the time, it was very emotionally painful to have to make those decisions, follow those paths, leave them, feeling that I was a disappointment for everyone around me who was trusting me in those decisions. So first of all, I just wanted to make enough money so I could just be left alone. So that was the first priority. I didn't even know if poker would be something I could become good at. I was not sure. I didn't enjoy the game of poker as much as I enjoyed being good already at other video games. It's just that those video games would not make money. So I was just thinking, okay, maybe. So I am thinking that I never felt particularly good at anything during school. I was not someone who I would consider smart based on my grades or based on my results. I wasn't interested on anything. I was just the kind of guy who would study a bit, get my 5 out of 10, pass, and continue life, right? So I was just thinking maybe what I learned in video games, I could use that in poker to make enough money to survive.
You have an
And that
example
was
of
the
that,
first
like
priority.
of something that you learned in video games that could help you in poker?
So I think video games teach you action reaction situations, right? So it's like whatever you do has a consequence, and many bad decisions will lead to you losing the game. Poker is the same thing. If you think about many things in life which are not related with entrepreneurship or I don't know, basically being responsible of your own actions, many of them are emotionally driven. So sometimes actions don't lead to consequences in the way other situations would actually lead to actual consequences. So so I think it was just the feeling that if I could be good at this, maybe I can be good at poker. That was the thinking.
When was like the first moment where you started to get some success, in this poker thing where you're like, hey, I'm gonna make this as a professional poker player? Do you recall like the first moments of like success?
It happened actually after 6 months of testing the game and learning. I remember playing these double of nothing games that existed back in the day. I saw those like less risk compared to other games. I tried different things. At the end, I learned how to make money playing full ring games, in cash games at the time. And actually, now that I am thinking about it, I think I never thought about if video games helped me in my poker career at the beginning, but I do know poker has helped me a lot in entrepreneurship. There I can see a lot of examples of how now I see things and I divide tasks in many different groups. I try to understand everything around situations. And that actually, I got it from poker. But when I was a teenager, I would say I was not as wise, probably. I was just thinking maybe I can use these skills, this competitive drive that I have here, I can use it here. And maybe it leads to something, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe have an example. I'm sure you are in touch with other entrepreneurs, or you work together with other people. What's an example of a way a poker player would look at a problem within business that other people they would just not look at from that angle?
So probably ignoring things that matter, right? So when you're playing a hand of poker, you are worrying about what is your range, what is the situation, how many players could become a part of the hand at some point, and how you are going to adapt your strategy based on that. Then someone does something. Okay, what do I do now? You need to think about your bet sizings. What group of hands will you bet or will you call if somebody else does anything? And then you continue to filter what is going on and make all sorts of decisions during the hand. So basically, the way you think during a poker hand, you try to understand and think about everything that could affect the EV of the hand itself, right? So in business, I think it is the same thing. You think you can create a product. Okay, you start trying to create the product, and as you do the job, you start having a lot of you see a lot of things you didn't know that they were even there. And then you create the goal of, okay, I'm going to manage this thing the best way I can. The one thing poker didn't help me enough in entrepreneurship, it was in terms of learning to delegate, to find help, to create systems for other people to follow. That was the part that poker was not really helpful, because it is a game where you are, it is just you against everyone, right? In entrepreneurship, it's more like you need to be the leader of a team. You need to find help. I didn't find help early enough, so that was a mistake. Certainly, when I was playing with people like you, high stakes cash games, I didn't get help early enough. I was trying to do everything alone, and that wasn't a good decision. But at the same time, I also learned that I do something which is not very helpful, which is that I try to seek perfection in everything I do, which is very bad. Also, if you are starting a lot of new things that you don't know anything about, because then it's just that you are trying so hard in so many different things, it creates a huge stress on yourself. And yeah, maybe I can explain better with some specific examples. Not sure. I'm not sure how fun it will be as a conversation. But
where do you think this perfection or need for perfection came from? And did you already notice that like earlier in your poker career, that you're trying to show up perfect? For example, you're trying to play perfect.
I would say that I tried many different things during my career. I think the seeking perfection thing started even after I started battling in high stakes, because I got very interested in studying GTO. So I would spend a lot of time with PO Solver, doing calculations, and so many other things. I also realized that it was very helpful to play against strong players to learn faster, because you could see situations that would not happen very often when you were playing against weaker players or the other type of games. But the perfection thing, I think it became more, so it grew on me even more when I started caring about being successful on YouTube, because I realized that on YouTube it pays very well to be better than most. So YouTube, the way it works, the algorithm, it is that the best video wins, and YouTube is just interested in getting people to watch videos for longer, right? So the best video is the video that people will watch the longest, and the video that people will click on. So basically, if you have let's say a 55-60% audience retention, you are winning against any other video that it is below 55% audience retention. So imagine you have, I don't know, 10 million videos with under 60% audience retention. You are at 61%, but you are on top of 10 million videos. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which means that YouTube is going to recommend that video instead of all the other ones.
Correct. So you get exponentially higher returns the better your video is.
Which is similar in poker, right? I mean, if you're just a bit better than the rest, you get higher returns.
You get higher returns, but you don't get exponential higher returns.
True, and I guess also you can decide who you compete against. Whereas on YouTube, I mean, yeah, you compete against whole YouTube. You cannot really game select.
Exactly. In the poker game, you are against maybe 5 other players if you're playing 6 max, right? On YouTube, you are playing against millions of content creators. So basically, if you can become top 1% or even higher than that, you're just going to win over everyone, because there is a limited amount of space in the YouTube feed for your video to show. So when I realized that there are exponential returns for being very, very good at making a video, then is when I started seeking perfection in all the details of a video. So I would study how the videos perform, which is here is where poker became useful. In the same way I would study a hand, everything that it is involved with a poker hand, and I would try to understand everything about it to make a good decision. I would start thinking the same way about YouTube content. Okay, if I speak for 2 minutes about how I feel about this random thing, maybe it becomes boring, right? But if I speak for 30 seconds and then I continue, I move on to something else, or I understand the topic. For example, I also believe for YouTube is very, very important to be yourself, to show yourself as the person you really are. But at the same time, it is not good for videos to speak about too many things and those things do not be related with each other, right? So when I started making videos, I will make all sorts of mistakes. I would mix a poker session that lasts 20 minutes with me eating ramen for 10 minutes and me walking in a street for another 5 minutes with a lot of noise from traffic. There was a learning path, basically, studying audience retention charts and how things were going in the channel that lead to better videos, basically. Understanding better videos for videos people would watch longer. But at the same time, I tried to mix that with making videos I like to watch or I would like to watch. And the rule I follow is I try to make videos that I will be glad I did when I am 80 years old, if I can reach that age. I want to see that young me a long time ago and just, hey grandson, come here. Look at your granddad when he was living adventures.
What is the favorite video you have on your YouTube channel? What's your own personal favorite?
I'm not sure if I have a favorite, to be honest. All in a way are special, and take into consideration that every day I would upload a new video, I would do everything I can for that video to be the best one I ever made at the time. I think my favorite videos are the videos where I travel to a lot of countries in the same video, and I explain what I am doing and why I am doing things, and I look happy because I am living the life I want to live. So those are the videos that are the most fun to watch for me.
Yeah, you've definitely done your fair share of traveling. Definitely something we're gonna get into. In order to prepare for this pod, I kind of went through your YouTube channel, and you've lived in a lot of countries. You've had quite the experiences globally. You touched on the difference between poker and being an entrepreneur, leading a team, setting up systems for other people to follow. What about systems for yourself? So maybe take it back to, your poker career. You ended up becoming a high stakes cash game player over those years. I think between, let's say, somewhere 2011, 2017. I think you worked your way up to high stakes cash games.
2015, I started testing a bit. With not a lot of success. 2016 was the first year I made decent money playing higher stakes. And at some point at the end of 2016, 2017, I tried to play only battles with other players like yourself. And at the time, what I was trying to do is to learn against very strong players and try to get all the information I can so I could improve.
What did
further.
what did playing the Wacko teach you?
You were very flexible in many things you did. I would say my background was a bit more tight in some cases. So, for example, you would check raise me with middle pair ace 5 in 7-5-3. Things like that, right? To protect the value of your hand against future streets and move on from there. Things like that, I would not do them as often or at all. And those kind of things, experiencing playing against someone who is doing those kind of things, teach you a lot. And not only you, any other very good player I was playing against, I would take away things, and that would become part of me later on.
Throughout this journey towards high stakes, was there ever a moment between when you started playing poker professionally and you reached high stakes cash games that you were like, this was a very bad decision. Maybe I should not have done this. I'm going to quit.
Quick poker, you mean?
Yeah. So throughout, like you started 2010, 2011, you worked your way up. I'm sure in those years, it wasn't all rainbows and sunshine, right? Was there any moment where you're like, maybe this was not the great decision?
I would say I never felt like I wanted to quit, mainly because I saw with terror the life I was living before poker. So ending the poker career was like, for what? Going where? Doing what? It was scary, I would say. I was scared to death if that happens. The only time I had a very bad downswing, it was, I believe, in 2013. I had at the time 100K bankroll. I lost like 80K, 90K. There was a bit of playing higher than I should at some point. And that also I was having a coach at the time with a cap 20 BBs player, which was not the best to improve at deep stack, but he was very popular, and I tried to learn from him things. So that didn't go well. And I remember feeling very scared at the time. Still, I knew, I got the bankroll I had little by little. So I trusted my ability to make the money back, just lowering the stakes I was playing, and that is what I did. I recovered all the money playing 1-2. And I remember also studying at the time, it was 2000. Yeah, at the end of 2013, I already was taking a look at some players I thought were very good, and one of those was OTB Red Baron. So I would study a lot the hands I could find of OTB Red Baron. And that turned out to be a great decision because learning how he would structure his game, how would he play certain groups of hands in certain situations, that led to a better understanding on how to structure my game. It helped me a lot. It felt like making money was easy, following those systems, let's say. Meanwhile, I was playing obviously 1-2. As I started playing higher, it was more difficult, of course.
For the people that are listening, like that was, I think, still in pre-solver area, because I can relate. Obviously, I also studied the heads. I think everyone just studied OTB. That was like, nowadays you have a solver to study, but back then we just studied what's OTB doing, and we would try to figure out why, and then copy that into our games. Right? That's how we that's how you got better back in the days. Talking about the OTB, in I think it was 2017, you actually competed in the PokerStars All-Star Showdown, an event where some of the best online cash games players came to battle it out. A bit similar actually to what Coinpoker recently did with the World Championship. OTB was actually one of the contenders as well. Ended up not winning it, because who ended up winning it was you, Elias.
No, I was winning until the last 2 or 3 days that I believe Hattrick was the one who won it at the end.
Really? I always thought you won it
I think I
up
was
until
third.
today.
I was winning it, but Hattrick actually won it at the end. I think. Yeah, I think it was him.
That's
Well,
unfortunate.
it was fun.
What I
Yeah,
mean, you still
doesn't
got
matter.
close. What do you think gave you an edge over the majority of the field, even OTB?
I actually would not say I had an edge over the field. It for me it was the same thing as playing with you. It was just, let's see what I can do here, and let's learn from these guys, and let's make also content about this. And here, I believe, is where I start making some questionable decisions. For example, the All Stars, I recorded everything. Everything I played, I recorded it and I uploaded on YouTube. Those were one. I would say not the first videos I made, but close to the first. I made like maybe 10 episodes of the All Star game. And one of the things I did, because I thought it would not be good for YouTube, it was playing without a hat, for example. Back in the day, I was a very what's the word I'm looking for? I was very into hats and things like that. I used to have a hat with 1,200 stats in 2013 with 20 pop-ups, with all sort of stats that custom made about what are you bluffing between 60% bet and 75% bet in betched bet in this particular position, that kind of thing. I would have a stat for everything. But at the time the All-Star started, I was already becoming more interested in the GTO part of the game. So this is actually one of the questions I have for you, which is how do you? I think I think I know the answer, but what do you think matters more? Focusing your game more on understanding GTO and making exploits based on that, or HUD related things or HUD related decisions. The thing is that at the time I was thinking, I think GTO matters way more. So I was trying to understand the GTO part of the game, and it was very early in the GTO, let's say, fever. So I decided, okay, I think it's not good for YouTube to play with a HUD. People are going to say, what is this? They are not going to understand it. Poker on YouTube was not as popular or as mainstream, quizá, maybe as it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to not use a HUD, basically, during the whole All-Star. And the second questionable decision that I made, it was recording the All-Star game with a camera in my hand. So I was not even capturing the screen. I was actually recording it like this. So obviously that's a lot of fun. I was just trying to make the content more like action content.
So you were more worried about making good content than trying to play your best poker to beat up your...
Actually, I was worried about both things. The thing is that you can't try to do both things. It doesn't mean you're going to do a good job doing both. But I was doing my best in everything I was doing, but that didn't mean I was playing the best way I could. And something as simple as missing a very good hand, you didn't open raise it because you were actually speaking about something else that was happening on another table. So those kind of things, actually, I would say, were the end of feeling that I could play those games, that I could battle in those games. because I was trying to make content while I was playing very strong players. And that led to me deciding that maybe if I play tournaments, also at the time I was realizing that poker content was way more mainstream in tournament compared to cash games. So I felt maybe if I play poker tournaments, I can actually compete at a high level while at the same time I am making content. So that was a decision I had to make between 2017, 2018. I think it was 2018, 2019 early, deciding to not continue playing cash games, which was at the time super difficult for me because it was all I did for many years.
How do you like transitioning onto other things? You know, I've experienced the same thing. How do you then sort of let go of that part of you and kind of close that chapter? For example, I've always, and I would say even up until today, struggle with like an attachment towards me as Rene, the cash game player, right? Like I'm a good cash game player and that's me. That's my identity. You know, I can do all these other things. I can make a great podcast for our audience, right? But it's still like what really matters to me is my cash game capabilities. Did you notice any resistance there, like transitioning on, or did you have less attachment to you as a cash game player, and were just like, well, no, I'm Elias the poker player, I make great content, I transition to MTTs?
I think in the same way you feel that way, I did too. I was Elias Sin Karma, the guy who played cash game high stakes. And, you know, starting in tournaments, I had a few issues too because I was creating content. You know, I think we all know that tournament poker players are usually less experienced in post-flop game, for example. So changing the game I was playing, it was a good decision in what relates to playing against weaker players, at least in what relates to post-flop game. But that doesn't mean that I was good playing pre-flop situations. I was not good playing pre-flop situations. So creating content while at the same time I was learning a new game, it was delaying my learning speed. At the end, I could learn those things. I remember buying Monker Solver, learning how to use Monker Solver. I remember doing calculations for all the positions to literally calculate the GTO of every possible situation in tournaments. And I even hired a developer to create an application to put all that information on it because doing that work would help me to get a better understanding of what is a good pre-flop decision playing poker tournaments. And ICM and those things are things I would consider on top of that. But yeah, I'm not sure if I was lost a bit in the in the explanation. The original question was
The original question was
that led to all this.
what was about identity and how your identity was linked to Sin Karma, the cash game
Yes,
crusher. But you know, you took
the
it
first
to
3
great
years.
lengths, you know, and I definitely can
Yeah.
relate to a lot of things that you were saying. You did actually use the fact that you were teaching yourself tournaments. You also seem to have used that as a way to make content. I think also around 2018 you opened your poker school, right? ZerosPoker. Did you then use basically the school as, okay, I'm going to study these things, and in the same time I'm going to create like a course out of it?
Yes, the first content I did in the poker school was content based on what I already knew about the game in cash games. So I mainly focus on cash games, and the original goal of making a poker school was actually to finance hiring editors and getting help to make the YouTube thing bigger. So I realized that I'm not sure if you know this, but making content in Spanish pays like 5x less compared to making content in English. So actually, the money I can make from YouTube is very little. Even today, I am making maximum 4K, 5K per month on the two channels I have with 300K subscribers almost, and another one with 200K. And that's not a lot compared to what the same size English-speaking channels are making. They are making way, way more. One of the things I realized in 2018-19, it was that I found a new passion. So this was difficult to also to manage. At the same time, I was a very competitive poker player because in purpose, I made the conscious decision of I'm not going to play any video game ever. Doesn't matter what comes up. It doesn't matter what happens in the world. Poker is the only thing that matters to me, and I said that to myself from 2009 to 2018. So for a long period of time, poker was the only thing that existed in my life. I would make sometimes to watch a TV show I like or something like that, but that was it. I would not put myself in situations where I would enjoy something so much that I want to play a game a lot of hours, and it's not poker. And basically, by managing myself that way, I could just focus on poker all the time. But YouTube was the first thing that I let in my to become part of my life, and I didn't want it out. I realized that I love making content. And today I know that probably I will be making content all my life because I truly enjoy it. It's an art in itself. I think I became good at it. I don't see any reason why I should stop it because I like it so much. And I decided that I would try to be good at both things. Okay, maybe I cannot. It's not reasonable to try to become a top 5 player in the world, but maybe I can get as close as possible to being very good at this game, while at the same time I am a very good content creator. So I changed it a bit, my goal, to something more reasonable. So I would not stress myself way too much, because trying to improve all the time at something, if you are putting your time in two things at the same time, is difficult. So many things were going on at the time.
Yeah, especially if you have some perfectionistic tendencies, which I can definitely relate to myself as well. Everything that I do, I want to try to do the best to my capabilities. Right? When I play poker, I want to be the best poker player I can be. When we have this podcast, I want to make sure that this podcast is as good as it can be. When I make content, I want to make sure it's good to be. When I do coaching, I want to make sure it's good. But yeah, at some point, I cannot be good at everything, right? And especially the playing poker.
You cannot.
And teaching poker, even though it's still poker, I feel like playing poker is a skill in itself, right? Because you are a performer. Whereas teaching poker is a way, sort of different part of your brain, sort of, right? You're trying to explain concept. You're thinking very rational, whereas performing in poker is way more intuitive, right? And it requires a very different skill set. So even though the two are very similar, because you literally are doing the same, you're talking about poker, I have found myself that it's very hard to do both at a high level. You experience something similar? And when you, by the way, when you also talk about content creation, do you also then mean like creating courses? Because you create content for YouTube, which I think, at least nowadays, a bit more like a lifestyle vlog type of stuff. And ZerosPoker.com is more actual poker educational courses, correct?
Correct. When I think about creating content, I am thinking mostly about creating content for YouTube. And I always thought of my poker school as something that I want to do very well, of course, because I do care about providing the best experience I can. I also agree with you that when you are creating teaching content, you are using different skill sets compared to playing poker. For example, I could not be maybe I'm not the best poker player in the world, but I can still study 3 hours a situation and I can tell you everything about it because I know how to study the situation. So I knew I could study everything I teach to make sure it's right. And in that way, I feel I am proud of what I'm offering. So I would do that with every video that I make. And also, I think I was one of the first and one of the few that also hire editors to produce the content. So people would watch content that actually feels good to watch. So that was one of the things that I did too. But I always thought of what I was doing in the teaching part of my business as something that I had to do if I wanted to pay for the YouTube production. And I will tell you a very stupid goal that I have right now. I would love next year, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it because I need to learn. But I was last week in a mountain of Japan, in Niigata, practicing snowboarding for the first time since I was a kid. It was something I tried when I was in the school. I loved it. I injured my hand falling. I couldn't practice it again. I didn't have any money to do it, but now I can. And my wife was telling me many times, would you want to come to do snowboarding with me and some friends? And I always said no, because inside of me, I was thinking, I didn't practice this since I was a kid. I'm 35 years old now. What can I actually be proud of myself doing snowboarding? So here it comes the perfectionist, right? Trying to, I can just think about it like something you can have fun with. You don't need to be good at it. So I'm trying to teach myself that a bit now. So I actually said yes, finally, to that experience. So we went to the mountain. And I found myself actually learning how to go down from the mountain, which was great. So then I thought it would be so cool because Japanese mountains are amazing. You know, they have so much snow. I'm speaking about 3 meters of snow around the roads. It's like you feel like an ant walking through the path that they created, you know? There is so much snow, and it was a lot of fun. And these small towns where you see a small shop, you enter, you enjoy great food after a long day of snowboarding. It was a beautiful experience, and I thought it would be so cool to make like 45, 60 days of traveling all the mountains of Japan and doing snowboarding in all of them and making videos about that experience. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe next year I will try to do that when the season comes. So that's a very stupid experience-based goal that I want to do now.
It is really cool if you're let's just call it lifestyle vlogger, because basically for your job you need to do all these things, right? You need to gain all these experiences. So I feel like It's something that a lot of people would like to do, right? They would like to do the experience, but they have a job to go to, they have to do this. But if
And not only
going
that,
out and experiencing is literally sort of your job, that's a pretty cool combination.
but the experience is not going to pay for itself. I will not make money doing that. Not in a million years. I will spend 10x more than what I make back making that content. I will not have sponsors for
So
that.
that's where that's where the school comes in.
Exactly. The school plays a role in me being able to accomplish dreams, goals in what relates to content creation. So I can provide the best experience possible for the people who want to watch those videos. YouTube itself does not give you the money. It is the business that you build around it. What does?
Yeah, and the way you can various ways to monetize that. I wanted to get back to the question you asked me, and then I want to hand it over to Adam. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe your question towards me was if GTO is more important or if using a HUD was more important, correct?
What are your thoughts between players who base decisions based on HUDs, stats, or based on GTO understanding?
I mean, in an ideal world, I think you would play an individual strategy versus every individual specifically tailored towards him, right? But we do have to take in consideration that maybe, especially if you're playing lower stakes or mid stakes, there's a lot of players, you're playing a lot of tables, that's not really feasible. So you need to create some sort of foundation, right? For example, I was very similar actually to you back in the days. When I was playing high stakes poker, the pool was very small. Solvers were coming out there, but it was not as much as a thing. I think usually the old school players, we grew up with HUDs because the way our brain made a decision is, well, I need to know what my opponent's doing. Therefore, I play optimal against my opponent. So I was playing very HUD-based strategy. I didn't really have a set strategy like I would have now. I would just be like, oh yeah, this is this guy. I would have various opening sizes versus everyone. Use very different ranges. Would move my bluffs to various different lines depending on how my opponents. So it's that the environment is really dependent on the correct strategy, right? The level of your opponent. Back then, people had holes all over the place. So you got way higher return of your investment in putting time into exploiting your opponents and building strategies towards specific opponents. Nowadays, for example, people's stats all revert a bit more towards GTO, which kind of forces you to play quote quote GTO. And then I wanted to add something on terms of when we talk about GTO strategies or solver use, they're often talked about in the same way, but there's a clear difference, right? We see a solver applying a GTO strategy and it's applying theoretical principles about the game of poker. We can learn two different things, right? The exact balanced ring constructions and the right frequencies, that's more around GTO strategies, which aren't that important in real time to some degree, right? Because the other person doesn't really know your exact strategy. But certain concepts that we can learn, around, your bet frequency is dependent on how much equity you have, or the sizing of your bet is driven around the nut advantage and the retention of that, stuff like that. These are like theoretical principles that regardless of the opponent you're playing against, they will apply. So GTO strategies and the value of that apply only to a very small amount of opponents. But the bigger theoretical principles about how poker is played, like, for example, the concept of equity retention or strategical consequences to, for example, playing certain SPRs, these are things that will apply regardless of the level of your opponent, right? But in general, the weaker your opponents, the more it's worth playing an exploitive strategy towards them. And the stronger your opponents, the more you're kind of forced to play a bit more defense and play solid yourself and try to not screw up, right? The way you make money is different. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I think kind of your answer is like a third option, right? So at the time you were focusing on this player is this guy against you, I'm going to do this sort of things. And the reason why I made this question, it was because when I started creating content, I decided, I made a conscious decision to not use an advanced HUD.
Mm-hmm.
And the HUD was a big part of what I spent my time on early on in my career, 2012, 13, 14. I did the Supernova Elite with a very big HUD, and even later on. So it was studying GTO, of course, not speaking about the general understanding of the game and the things that apply to everyone. I felt that studying GTO would lead to a better understanding of what was going on in certain situations, how the game is supposed to be played. So in a way, I would feel, okay, I'm not using the HUD, but it's not the most important thing. But at the same time, I would feel insecure playing against very strong players without a HUD, because I was making content and I wanted the content to be more appealing to people who are not professional poker players who play online. So I always felt interested about, and this leads very well to the second question I had for you, which is, how do you see playing against someone who was making such a questionable decisions playing with you? I always thought it is an interesting question, and it's one of the reasons why I accepted your podcast. I think it's interesting to speak with someone who was your opponent, who saw you through the screen as a competitor, and hear your thoughts, because it was very difficult for me also to make a video at some point and explain to my audience, hey guys, what I am doing, creating content and battling these games, is probably not the best idea. And I think I should stop it before I make a mistake and I lose a lot of money or whatever. And then I follow a different path. And tournaments, actually, it matters way less to have an advanced HUD, because context matters way more in tournaments compared to cash games. The rules of cash games are what they are, and GTO applies, exploits apply, the HUD can apply. In tournaments, the HUD apply less often than in cash games. It matters, but it doesn't matter as much to have an advanced HUD, and also you're playing with a way bigger pool, so you don't get you don't get the same sample anyway. So advanced stats don't matter as much either. So the reason to change to play tournaments, that was a bit of a reason to change the game I was playing. And I don't know, I thought it would be interesting to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, you kind of already mentioned, right? Tournaments, bigger fields, therefore exploit on the player is a bit less. It's not really worth your time as much, right? For example, if you play high stakes cash games, you will play against the same player over and over. Therefore, putting more time into individual exploits and understanding how he plays, that then becomes more rewarding, right? It doesn't mean that bigger pools you cannot exploit, but you will, for example, instead of studying an individual player, you will group all the players and study your population, right? And look for general exploitative tendencies. So you will exploit more the pool instead of the individual itself. Now, within that, you could still, for example, look for certain tendencies and profile your opponent. Okay, this guy's clearly a recreational player. This guy's a guy who likes to fight more for pots. This is a guy who likes to fight less for pots. And you could then study these 3 individual profiles differently. Like, okay, if I have identified that this guy's more to the left compared to the average population, more to the right, these are the adjustments that I will make from my baseline exploitative strategy based on the pool. So that's a way you can kind of combine the two. In terms of what you were saying, actually, also I wanted to add. No, actually, in terms of what you were saying about the consequence it has when you review strategies. I remember I got to your channel because someone linked it to me because you recorded one of the battles that we did. That's actually how I came to your channel, right? And I do understand some Spanish, but I feel like with Translate as well, you can get some idea of someone's thought process, and it really depends also how open you are. Like I also done some streaming in like 500 Zoom pools. Like you can talk through a poker hand and say a lot of things, but you can explain a poker hand in various ways. And one way would make everything click for someone, and the other wouldn't, right? Or with one way you could review a lot that you're exploiting a lot, and in the other way couldn't. For example, I just always blame the RNG for making an exploitative decision. There's no RNG on screen, but I say, oh, I rolled high, so therefore I fold. But no, I folded because this guy's a nit, So that's ways that I would go around it. So yeah, I definitely think at the time you are obviously giving up some EV, and especially because you have a very exploitative approach, and you were also, I remember, willing to explain your exploitative approach. But to be fair, back then everyone had an exploitative approach because there was not GTO to the degree that there is now. And actually, I remember now what I wanted to add about GTO strategy. It is worth it, because I heard you mention that it is worth it to look at, okay, what would GTO strategy be? And then realize that people don't. And then, okay, well, this is more in line with what people do, then what's the correct counter exploit? So GTO strategies from that perspective, learning from the solver, is not necessarily to try to implement it yourself, but more, okay, this is GTO. So this spot is more sensitive for a human to screw up. And then what will be the consequence? So that's still... So GTO strategies specifically, I think they serve more to understanding how we can exploit humans instead of seeing it, okay, this is GTO strategy, this is what I should try to do. Adam, we talked earlier about the difference between, we both are very active in poker, right? We talk about poker, think about poker, create content about poker, create educational content about poker, teach about poker. And then there's the playing poker. Like I explained it sort of as like two parts of my brain. You obviously know more about the brain, about how performance works. Educate us. What is different? Like why are some, for example, very good players very poor teachers? And why are players who focus a lot maybe on teaching and coaching, they might not have the same results as someone who's only focused on playing?
Well, that's a loaded question. I'll do my best to put some insights. So yeah, I think what you're getting at is the difference between learning about poker, talking about poker, studying it, and then the performance side. Actually going to the tables and putting in volume. I think the biggest challenge for, say, yourselves who do a lot of content, a lot of coaching, and don't play full time, it's really hard to get that sharpness, that performance sharpness of playing full-time hours. It's like anything when you're doing it very often, you can like fine tune the skill set. I think poker is one of those skills where you can learn poker all day, but without the hours at the table grinding, it's really hard to be really sharp, really fine tuned. Hard to define what sharp means, but everyone who plays poker relates to when they feel sharp, when they feel on top of their game. And when you're jumping out of playing and then studying, going to more creative sides, thinking about the game, you're not putting as much reps into the performance side. So I think the kind of simple kind of answer I would give to that would be, it's very hard to be fully sharp and on top of your game when you're not putting the hours in. I say the hours, that's a criteria that's relevant to you. But if you're not putting in the hours that you need to be on top of your game. So yeah, I think it's a challenge. It's when you're juggling two things at once, or in Elias's case, about 10 things at once. It's a trade-off that you have to be aware of and almost accept. Because if you're a young 19-year-old and you can play poker 10 hours a day, it's a bit different to when you have a family, you've got to balance things, and you might not have that sharpness when you're playing. So yeah, I think it's a challenge that you need to be aware of.
Just a few things I thought when I was listening to you. I found myself in the past 7 years trying to. It relates very well to what you just said, because it's 100% true and accurate. I found myself booking months of my time for one specific thing and doing just that one thing during that time. So, for example, okay, these 3 months I'm just going to focus on studying and playing. This next 2 months I'm going to make a course or whatever, or make content about. So I would try to do only one thing because I would feel what you are saying. At the same time, for certain things that need to happen at the same time, for example, playing poker at a high level, making content at the same time, now I am a bit glad that I was already a player who was playing kind of high before I started creating content, because I see content creators right now who have a passion for both things, poker and content creation. And I see them having a very, I know the challenge they have to become good at poker. And I don't know what I would have done if I had this kind of distraction when I was starting at poker. So I'm kind of glad that I already had an understanding, a general decent understanding of the game when I started creating content, and that has helped me so much, so much. I also take breaks from content creation. I took breaks, like 6 or 8 months breaks from content creation to study, to do things related only with improving my game during the past 7 years. But what I would do it is to create a lot of content for 3 months or for 5 months, so I can upload that content during the following 12 months. So those are the ways I went around this specific issue. Not there isn't a perfect solution, but at the same time, if you are able to do everything at the same time, kind of successfully, it pays off. So it's like a difficult thing to manage that I decided to try to manage, let's say.
I like this concept of working in seasons and almost like dedicating parts of your year, months at a time, to one particular thing. Obviously, there's overlap and there'll be some tasks that you carry on, but the overarching theme of this period. So let's talk about that, these kind of structured seasons of obsession, we'll call them, where you go deep on an area. How do you decide on what they are? And what do you think are some of the benefits of kind of separating your year into kind of these seasons like this?
Sometimes I find myself with decisions that with many different decisions, and thinking of those decisions as pieces of a puzzle. I try to choose the pieces that have more connection between each other, that have some sort of synergy. I think it's said, right? Sinergia in Spanish. So, for example, studying the game would have a good synergy with making a poker course, because as you study and you learn things, you're activating the kind of mindset you need to have to make good teaching content. When I was playing poker, I would just focus on playing poker. During the past 2 years, for example, I started playing more live poker because also I had the opportunity to be sponsored by Poker Stars. So I would go to all the European poker tours and events and some other events. So when there was an event, my mindset would be, this is what I need to focus right now. Only 2 things: going to the event, making the best videos possible, and playing the best poker I can. And today, I do have a team, so I don't need to do stupid things such as recording the screen of my monitor while I play poker or whatever. I have videographers with me who are recording everything that is happening. Meanwhile, I play poker, so I can actually play live poker, totally focus on my decisions and my game, and still get the content. So this is evolution, obviously, in the job. Playing poker, basically, it's something I need to do. Focus just on that. At the same time, I can create content. I am surprised to say that I think streaming poker tournaments, I don't think my ability to play well decreased too much compared to non-streaming. Actually, streaming forces you to be very focused. And if your setup is comfortable, and what I'm saying is having both hands available for you to do whatever, because the recording with the camera like this was a very bad idea. I think playing poker tournaments, if you're not playing too many tables, it's fine. I don't think you are leaving a lot of EV on the table. The field is large enough that showing your game doesn't matter as much. So it's fine. But for streaming poker, certainly I will do only just that. And how do I choose when I do that? It depends on the season. There are decisions that are kind of made for yourself. The event is happening this day or these weeks. So those weeks, you book your time for that, right? So that would be it. I would try to find synergies between topics, choose those together, or be forced to do something at the time that thing needs to be done.
Very interesting. Yeah, as you were speaking there about the synergy, I was thinking of how athletes approach their years. And it's very similar, like how things interact with each other. They often use the term like periodization, and most sports will follow a model of an off-season where it's very condition-based, very endurance-based. That then leads into a more kind of specific skills training, like a pre-season. And then you have the season itself. And then you have a peak and block almost the end, the championships of that. And each block kind of follows on from the other one. So there's an overlap structure of we do this one, so the next one is set up for the next one. It sounds like the way you're thinking about what seasons you're in, there's an overlap between those. Like, oh, this season then leads nicely into this one. Then I've got this intense season, then I ease off to this one. I think it's a very clever way to think about planning your year rather than plan like a week or a month, because it's a lot more zoomed out, a lot more big picture. So for you, when did you start to think of your life in seasons? I know for myself, I got into planning a bit further ahead, but for a long time, I was more of a week structure guy. Then I got into months, and it's only more recently I've got into a bit more longer planning. For you, when did you think seasons became important to clarify for yourself?
For me, it came as a solution to it came as an intuitive answer for frustrations, for feeling frustrated. So I felt what you described. This is too many things at the same time. So I need to focus on just one thing. And even doing that, there would be things that just shows up in your life. You didn't want them there, but they are just there. For example, managing a business, having people who work for you. My team today is 25 people. So 25 people can talk to you for many things, not related with the thing you are actually doing right now. I learned recently from content creator who is very good at managing companies, that it's good to think about task in two ways. Like, this is a manager task or this is a maker task. Maker task would be creative things, product creation, improving your game, playing. You need to make things happen. Manager tasks are just answering to this guy who has an issue with his payment. I have to pay 25 people every month. There is that day where I receive 25 emails who are. I have an assistant, so they will send me all the emails at the same time, but still I have to read them. So everyone has a request. I change my bank account. Can you please send me money? Not here, but there. Things like that, you know? I think I learned that it is very important to separate your days between management days and maker days. And then on top of that, you create seasons. And then on top of that, and this is my main goal this year. So I finished last December my sponsorship with PokerStars. And this year, I decided to spend more time on my business. So it becomes a business that can run itself based on systems, based on people who have responsibilities to make everything go well. Having more teachers, professionals who are active playing cash games, who are active playing spin and go, who are active playing tournaments. So the poker school does not need me creating the content. More people involved in the project. That makes it stronger. It doesn't rely on me. So this year I decided this is the season. The following months are going to be the season of creating these systems that I didn't have time to create before because I was so busy doing so many things. And the lack of these systems led to many people interrupting my life at all times because they needed whatever. And also that led to me having to learn many things. I learned a lot of things about design. I know a lot of things about the psychology of a thumbnail on YouTube. I learned a lot of things about the psychology of a good title for a YouTube video. I have a list of 20 questions you need to make yourself and the title for the title to work on YouTube. So I know what things. I know how to apply pressure to a decision to make sure it survives all that process, all that system. And if it survives that system, it means the video will get over 200K views. So there is a lot that I learned during the past 7 years. Those things should exist in a system that you delegate on someone and you give them that responsibility. And I have been doing this for years, but there is a lot. So it's like it's something that you need to continue doing as new things happen, as you create new things. For example, about 12 months ago, I created a news department. So I have two guys creating news every day, one in video, one in written format. And I have editors who are specialized on creating that kind of content. And it's going great. We are getting like 50K views a day or per video per day or more in news content, news poker content. And then so by doing that, we could create a system that leads people to visit the website, ZerosPoker.com, because you announce things on those news platforms that you created on Instagram and YouTube. So that led to new things you need to think about. So entrepreneurship, I'm learning that it is a lot of understanding, delegating, creating systems. I feel I neglected this part of entrepreneurship the last 6-7 years. So I decided that I need to have a stronger business so I don't rely on sponsors. For anything, I can just grow my team. I have 600K, 700K dollars that I need to spend on people every year. I better make sure I can pay for it. First of all, without help. And then I will have the freedom to do 2 months of snowboarding and traveling through Japan, and it will be fine, right? But if you have the pressure of all these people rely on me, I am not so sure things are going to go as they should because I'm just busy playing poker or traveling or doing whatever. I decided this is the year of or the season of learning more about entrepreneurship. So I'm studying more about systems and studying more about about learning how to delegate correctly and so many other things. So yeah, and then it will be easier to be a poker player after I do that, basically.
Yeah, I could see your passion there for learning systems and how to delegate, and your mind going away with all the ideas that you need to implement on, but also the real like problems you're trying to solve. You're basically trying to grow a business, make it sustainable, make it profitable, and then have a life on the side, which you can actually do not carefree, but without like 25 people relying on you every day for your inputs. So it's growing something whilst also keeping that freedom. So yeah, I think it'd be quite interesting to try and relay this to poker players, because as you mentioned, this is one of the skills poker doesn't teach you, is how to delegate and how to create systems. You end up being like a solo guy, just doing your own thing and trying to you against the world mentality. So that's think about it in terms of the maker and the management side. So I guess for the maker, the poker player will be the creative stuff, which is going to be the studying, probably grinding would go into their maker time, and then management. So all of us have a life to manage, so to speak. For a poker player, it's kind of easy. No offense, poker players, but it's kind of easy because there's not that many things that you need to manage other than yourself. So how would you think about it? Let's say we could go back to your early career and we could implant this systems delegation kind of mindset towards your early poker career. What would be some of the early choices you would make to create some systems that would allow you to optimize your poker career?
I always thought that sleeping is so important, even today, that I would never, and it was one of my early desires, becoming a poker player. I want to control my schedule, my working schedule. That means I work until whatever time I want to work, and I wake up at whatever time I want to wake up, and then life continues. So I would say that whatever I do, I would give myself that freedom to sleep as much as I feel I need. And one of the things I learned also studying performance and things like this is how important sleep is. So I would put a huge priority on sleep. One of the things I do now that I didn't know were as important before are things related with avoiding heavy meals, avoiding high carb diets that would lead to you feeling like you want to sleep 2 hours after you finish eating. So I certainly became fairly decent at managing the way I eat. I would say the part where I could become more efficient is spending less time in the planning, creating systems to eat healthy, but not spend a lot of time creating the healthy situation. So that's where some efficiency could come. And I realize now how important it was to be available full time to just focus on poker when I was in my early career. And also, especially because at the beginning, you have this drive that you can spend all your time thinking about poker, all the time. Later on, this dries a bit. So you are less likely to want to spend 12 hours per day thinking about poker. But at least you want to make sure you can sustain 8 or 10 in the working days you put into poker. So diet would be a thing I think would matter. The part where I am not good, it is at the training part, physical training, going to the gym and these things. I always felt that going to the gym would be negative for my poker career because the time I would have to put to go there, to be there and to come back, it would be like 2-3 hours that I could not use for poker. Today, I changed my approach to that. So every day when I wake up, I will walk 4 kilometers. It's the first thing I do. I walk. I go to a coffee shop that is very, very far from my house, and then I come back. So I do that every day. Would I want that in my early poker career? I am not sure. I am not sure because certainly it takes time. It will take away the first 2 hours of my day, or an hour and a half. But maybe I can put some efficiency in there and just do that thing running and take 30 minutes or something. And then my day starts. So certainly, maybe there is a way to put it in there and it would be good. Now I am caring more about those things because I am in a good place in life. So what matters the most right now that I have a property, I have a life. It matters to be healthy, right? So it is a change. When you are 20, you are not thinking so much about those things, but when you become older, you think more about those. Still, you can tell a 20-year-old you should work out. Maybe he will listen, maybe he will not, right? I think those things. Most of the people I knew work out when I was 20, 25. People around me are people who were working out because they were interested in meeting girls, going to parties, picking up, and all these things. Is this good for your poker career? Certainly not. No, it's better to be a lonely asshole. Just be at home. Just work. These things are very difficult. Probably it matters way more the way you were raised as a kid, right? What kind of habits you had when you were growing up, compared to just saying to someone, do this and life will be better for you. I'm not sure people will listen when they're 20, 25. They will just do whatever they feel they need to do. I think what matters the most is having that drive. And in my case, that was driven by a lot of pain and just pure fear. Like, my life before this was so shit. I don't want to go back to that no matter what, But I'm not scared of that anymore. I know I'm going to be just fine. So it's impossible that I am going to become bankrupt or something like that anytime soon. So that fear doesn't exist. When you are 20, 25, maybe you do have that fear. What if I am not able to become a professional poker player? What if I need to find a job and I hate it? So that fear can be very powerful to make you work and to give you discipline. I would certainly avoid drugs. I was never interested in drugs. I was never interested in alcohol. I was never interested in party because those were not things I was interested. Just that. I didn't have fun when I was a teenager with friends. Doing that. So as I grew up, those things didn't matter to me. So that made things easier. But at the same time, I have been always someone who is just fine alone. I would enjoy having friends with me, and I do enjoy it a lot now. But at the time, it didn't matter as much. That means you shouldn't have friends when you are 20, 25. If you want to have a good poker career, I think it matters that you feel in balance. If you feel good about your life, everything is fine. Don't worry too much about it. If you feel lonely, maybe you should do something to feel less lonely. But basically, the more hours you can put into work, the better for your poker career. As long as those hours are quality hours. One thing I did that wasn't very good, it is that sometimes I would have distractions around me, like a TV show I like or something. Meanwhile, I was in the computer. So that would be one thing I would try to avoid. But that only happened after maybe I was in this. This happened to me when I was doing the Supernova Elite. I had to play so many hours every day. So playing 12 hours per day, every day. At some point, it just feels you need something to change around you. You want the radio, whatever. Obviously, it's not good to have that distraction while you are playing. But if you are putting so many hours into poker and you're playing for a goal that it is rakeback related, it didn't change too much. Change the outcome, obviously, of your performance. Doesn't mean I was in a very bad place because I did that. No, I just made a bit less money compared to what I would have been able to make. So to any young professional poker player, I think just make decisions related with feeling fine, just fine. Try to not do anything that will make you unhealthy, because that's just not good, and that is going to affect your ability to become good at poker, and maybe you might die. And what was the fucking point of getting cancer because you eat a lot of sugar? And then what was the effort for? What was the fucking point if you are just dead because of your unhealthy habits? So you just don't see you just don't have the fear sometimes that you are doing something that is clearly wrong. But I think it's good to have some basic knowledge of what is good or bad for you. Find some sort of balance. Try to become efficient with your time. I think that's a good one, because even today I find myself making decisions that are not the most efficient with my time. If I want to put more hours into work, I could. But this particular year, I am actually doing an active effort to feel more relaxed, because I was having one of the effects of doing so many things at the same time. It creates anxiety. It stresses your body a lot. So the last year, I was having issues with my hands shaking. I would have like a needle feeling, like something in my heart that was weird, like a needle. It was anxiety. I would dream and I would grind my teeth against each other without noticing. It's anxiety. Yeah, anxiety was there. Also, one bad thing that happened to me the last year, it is that I didn't know that I had chronic rhinitis. It is that inside the nose there are a couple of things that were too big and don't allow me to breathe properly. So that issue became bigger, and at some point I could not breathe very well. And I developed a bad pattern of breathing. I stopped using my diaphragm, and that led to activation of my anxiety. Because when you overbreathe, you activate I think it's called the sympathetic system of your body. So then it activates the fight response of the body. So this year is big for me to reduce anxiety, because now I don't need to go to live events, at least for now. And this is one of the reasons I want to focus on making my business independent, to be making a business that is able to run itself, that has everything it needs to be self-sustainable. So then next year, if I want to be a poker player, I can be a poker player and a content creator at the same time. But just that, because in the past 8 years, I tried to do many things at the same time, learning a new game, moving up stakes to play high stakes in poker tournaments, having a business, being a content creator, growing my company from 1, 2, 3 people to 25 people. So many things were happening at the same time. And since 2023, also on top of that, I added having a sponsor and responsibilities as an ambassador of a poker brand. So all those things combined led to great anxiety. So for me, at least this year, it is a priority to care a bit less about things in general. And this is why I wake up and I walk 2 hours. Then my life continues after that, and it's just fine, at least for now. Also, I am thinking maybe this is enough. Maybe I don't want to create new businesses. I will just focus on making this one great. It will be fucking great. I will work very hard on it. But maybe this is enough, because maybe I'm not built for this. My mentality is not the right one for this, or my desires in life of making great content And being a good poker player, I will be able to accomplish those things more easily if I don't put more things on the table.
Big shout out to our sponsors. First off, GTO Wizard. If you're looking to level up your game, let me tell you about GTO Wizard. It's got everything you need to improve, whether you're just starting out or already crushing it. You got tools like a hand history analyzer, a GTO trainer, and even custom drills to help you sharpen your skills and make smarter plays. It's what so many guests we have had on use to dominate cash games and tournaments. Get started for free and get 10% off your first purchase using the link down below, gtowizard.com/mechanics. If you sign up, you also get access to the weekly coaching webinars where you can learn from me and other great coaches. So looking forward to educating you guys over there. Next up is Coinpoker. Coinpoker is one of the fastest growing poker rooms in the world right now. In a world where sites seem to care less and less about their players, Coinpoker is showing good promise, listening to the community and providing a safe and sustainable playing environment. Join the action, get 33% rakeback and 150% deposit bonus using code TMOP or register using the link in the description down below. But without further ado, let's continue chatting with today's guest, Elias.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing all that. And I think it's kind of a reminder through your own experiences how hard it is to juggle multiple things and kind of the hidden cost of that when you're trying to do a lot of things at once, this inbuilt stress and pressure that can build. And often like there's a internal call just to go back to simplicity. It's almost like complex versus simplicity. They often go back and forth. And I feel like for you, you've got the point where simplicity makes more sense or feels like what you're gravitating towards now and trying to create systems for that. Then maybe from that place of simplicity, you'll go into more projects or juggle more things. But yeah, I think it's always good to go back to that baseline. And as you mentioned with that kind of anxiety episode you went through, it really reminds you how much health matters and how much looking after yourself is a really important variable. So yeah, I just want to bring it back to exactly what you said there, because you covered so many good things that I wanted to I was writing down frantically to cover in terms of a poker player and how to think about systems and think about organizing their kind of days in life. And the first one, or the kind of overarching one, was having a drive, like a drive to want to succeed. I think you mentioned for your career, poker is the only thing that matters. That was like the internal blueprints that you had for a long time in poker. And whether it's to run away from the life you don't want or it's to create the life you do want, doesn't really matter. But you need that kind of drive energy, almost like lift off energy to get you going. The next thing you mentioned was protecting time. So how much time do you want to put into poker? Is it 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours? That gets locked in. You protect that at all cost. Then the next things you went into were performance and kind of health related markers in terms of sleep, in terms of diet, in terms of exercise, and making sure you're doing them as well as possible, but also efficiently with time. Like as you said, as a poker player, maybe going to the gym for 2 hours isn't going to work, but a walk could work or a 15-minute run might work. So balancing performance and health measures with time efficiency, especially when you're young, and you can kind of take a few bad choices around health and get away with it. Then from that, systems around that, which I guess goes into habits, routines, how you're showing up, how you're preparing yourself, and make sure that's optimized. And then the last thing you mentioned was kind of avoiding distractions. And I related to what you said. I did Supernova Elite for 3 years myself. It is monotonous. It is like 10-hour, 12-hour days. It is boring. It is clicking buttons for a long period of time. And yes, there's periods of the day which are great. There's periods of the day where you're like, I'm bored out my mind, but you're against the kind of volume clock every single day. There's no letting off from January 1st. For me, I used to finish on December 30th, so it was a full year of planned out volume. So yeah, I can relate to that. Wanted to spice things up. I used to listen to podcasts and some music, something just to give my brain some novelty. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. So I want to bring the conversation around to a bit more lifestyle stuff, and especially thinking about environments and travel, because I know for yourself, you've lived in so many different places for various different reasons. So I want to dive into the kind of pros and cons of the travel you do. So for you, you've lived in many places. I think you've got a current base in Japan, in Andorra, in Korea. How much has your traveling been to optimize your lifestyle, and how much has been to focus on work or work-related projects?
You know, the reason why I started traveling in the first place, it is because in 2012, the Spanish government closed the market. So you could not compete against everyone around the world. So they created PokerStars.es platform. And they also, the tax authorities in Spain at the time, they were unfairly pursuing actions against poker players, asking them for way more money than what they ever made, because they didn't understand the difference between gross and net income. So they thought, okay, this guy have this Random Mob website. It says you want millions. Where are the millions? And their millions were not there, because those were gross profits, not net profits. So a lot of people got their life ruined by that. But by that stupidity, and I learned that I could not trust my government at that time, because if that stupidity was allowed to happen, and it was not a stop, it just continued. I lost all faith in the system. So for me, going to new countries as a professional poker player, poker was the key of the freedom for me. Going to new countries was the option I could take to remove myself from my country, so I would not have any issue making money. So first I traveled to the UK. I spent a year there making the Supernova Elite with the friend I was living with, housemate, I don't know. Anyway, he told me Thailand was great. He had a great experience living in Thailand. So we moved to Thailand together with another friend. And then I moved to the Philippines. I met a Korean girl. I moved with her later on to Australia before they closed the market too. Macau, live poker, Japan. I heard this site called Bodog. It has great action in 2K. I moved to Canada. I opened a bank account. I play Bodog in Canada for a few months every year. So I started making all these trips and going to different countries. Being completely honest with you, that was not a good decision for performance or for having a good career. Having to travel is a distraction. Having to set up your life in a place is not a good thing. It's a huge distraction. But life was more fun that way. And if I had to change, if I wanted to become the number one poker player in the world, would I repeat that? Probably not. But what matters more if tomorrow I go out and a brick falls from a ceiling of a random building and hits my head and I'm dead? What matters the most? The experiences. The experiences I had. So for that reason, I feel those things were a good thing in general for my life. But those are risks you take. You need to make sure you can survive that. You can make enough money to pay for that kind of lifestyle. It was just going with the flow. And I think at the time, I was not thinking too much about this is a performance choice. This is a lifestyle choice. And also, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I was looking for a new home. I felt, okay, Spain is not my country anymore. I know I'm not ever going to come back to Spain to live. So where do I live? So that was there. So I was actually motivated too by that. I wanted to find a place where I felt, okay, maybe this is the place where I will live. And the first place I felt that, it was Japan.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing part of traveling, trying to figure out where you would like to base yourself if you are looking for a new location, especially when you're young and you can live the traveler lifestyle with a little bit less responsibilities, so to speak. So for you, what about Japan felt like a fit for you? Why do you feel like you gravitated towards Japan?
It's a kind place. Everyone is kind. In Spain, it can happen. It doesn't mean it doesn't need to happen, but it might happen that somebody else, for some random reason, ruins your day, brings negativity in your life, whatever it is. It might happen. these things in Japan just don't happen. It's pretty much impossible. You take a train, it's in silent. There is nobody there screaming. There is not this homeless guy doing some random shit like in the streets of Vancouver. Japan just feels everything is fine, nice. Everything is super clean. Food is delicious. Of course, I know now, because my wife is Japanese, that Japanese culture puts a lot of pressure on Japanese people on how to behave. So there are certain aspects of Japanese culture that maybe I don't fully agree with in a way, but the general style of how this society is built, it works for me, because it's just a place that is kind to me, and I can be left alone and just be super happy about everything. You are not going to see it's very unlikely someone is going to be unkind to you. So that makes this place so nice, and everywhere else you go, you're going to see bad things around you. Like, okay, this country has a homeless problem. This country is very dirty. Or this country, Australia, is way too far from Europe. 30-hour airplanes. Okay, one time, not often, please. So you see the good and the bad side of many places, right? Thailand, Macau, these are good places in some way, bad places in other ways. Japan just has a very good balance. The issue with Japan, it is that coming as a tourist is very expensive, and the longer I was here, particularly in 2020, 2019, prices started to go very high for rent. And there are two markets for renting apartments. One market for the residents, those who have a blue card and are able to work in the country, and those who are just tourists. And I was just a tourist. Basically 85-90% of the market for renting, it was not available for me because I was not a resident. So those who are tourists will have to pay for rent $4,000 a month for a 60 square meter apartment in Tokyo, which is very expensive. That motivated me to buy a house in Tokyo, so I could come to a place that is mine, fully mine. And I learned that it was actually easy to buy property in Japan, and you could hire a company so they receive your mail, and you don't need to do anything. They manage everything. They put the bank account. You just send money to the bank account, and they manage everything, and everything is fine. And you go through the process of buying a house, and all the system is built for bad things not to happen. You feel transparency. They explain to you. So I have documents about what's behind every wall of my house. Those things don't happen in other countries. So Japanese seek perfection in a way, and maybe it also translates to met expectations in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, but it seems like it aligned with some of the things you value, some of the things that you like from a society as a whole, but also like the culture of being friendly, being kind, everything transparent seemed to really resonate with you. And yeah, I really like that you've obviously done a lot of traveling as well to arrive at that conclusion. Most people haven't traveled the world enough to know what cultures would fit. You kind of get indoctrinated in your own culture, and then you kind of maybe stretch out a little bit. But yeah, all of us live in different countries to where we were born. And I think a lot of poker players have opportunities to travel to see the world. Yeah, as you mentioned, though, one of the challenges with travel is that how do you keep performing at a high level whilst you're going to new places? So you've obviously done this a lot, and I'm sure there's been some bad experiences and some good ones. But what are some of the things you've learned about travel hacks, routines, and things that are important when you're trying to stay productive whilst traveling? Maybe you're doing 2 months here, 2 months there. There's an element of excitement to go new places, but there's also an underlying theme of, I need to get stuff done. I need to be productive. What are some of the things that have been important for you?
For most of the time I was traveling, one of my first stops when I arrive in a new country would be to go to IKEA and buy the same table and the same chair that I bought everywhere else. I think the chair, I think it was called Marcus. The desk I forgot, but if I sit on it, I will remember the name of these furniture things. So you try to find some level of efficiency in this very inefficient life. But yes, you would rent an apartment. It would be big enough for you to have a space where you would work. Actually, going to Canada was nice in a way too at some point, because Canada was one of the few countries where I could spend 6 months per year. So that was easier. I mean, you get more for your money when you go there. Japan would be painful until I bought the house, but I just loved it here, so I came back again and again. There were some countries where I would not go to play online. For example, I went to Macau for 3 months. That was live poker, so I didn't need to care too much about anything else besides going to the casino and playing live poker. And other countries I went to live, I could stay up to 1 year. So then I would just rent a place for 1 year and it would be there for me. Australia also, I got a 1 year visa, by the way, a working holiday visa. And in 2018, I could get the same visa in Japan. There is a visa for people under 30 years old that allows you to live for 1 year in Japan. So that year I could get efficiency out of my work. And it was also the year that my channel started to do well, because I was combining this life in Japan with poker online and so on. So it was a good combination, because also Japan is a country that attracts a lot of attention. It's a very popular place compared to other countries, right? So I just tried to combine everything and find small efficiencies in a kind of inefficient life. But there were certain decisions that would allow me to keep a place. I would become friend with the landlord of a place, and I would negotiate. Okay, I have 3 months here. I will live for 3 months. Please keep my chair and my table in your apartment, and when I come back, I come here. So that would help, right? So I come back to a known place. That's those things.
Yeah, it sounds like trying to create some sort of normality and kind of efficiency in that small environment that you have, but also like, there's obviously a lot of things that you can't control in terms of the new locations, figuring stuff out. I always feel like when I get to a new place, I always want to get in a routine quite quickly. I want to figure out where the supermarket is. I want to figure out where the gym is. I want to try and get into a similar routine of what I've been on previously. Isn't always 100% possible, but I think there's an element of what routine works for you over time. And the more you can get back on that routine in different places, the more you feel, I'm at home. Like you, the Marcus chair. It's like, the Marcus chair, this feels good. Back at home. Even though you're in a different country, there's an element of normality or, something that feels normal to you. So for you, in terms of the downside of traveling, we've kind of mentioned the productivity sides and kind of difficult to always perform at a high level. What are some of the downsides you experienced, or some of the darker times of traveling? Because I know from the outside, you're someone who plays a lot of poker, creates content, travels the world. It can seem very glamorous on the outside, but I know there can be a lot of challenges on the inside. So for you, what were some of the darker periods of your travels?
I think the worst part was leaving a place when you didn't want to live. When you were comfortable in a place with a life that you created, and then you see that your visa is expiring and you need to leave. I remember those moments are as the most annoying moments, for sure.
Yeah, it's like getting evicted out of the country. Your visa expires.
And in the past, one thing I am doing right now is building what I call bases. So I'm lucky now that I can afford to do things before I couldn't. For example, before I could not keep a place all year rented in a country, but now I can. So, for example, I have a house in Korea that I rented on a yearly basis with a much better price compared to what I was paying before in Japan. But it's a place that where I have a setup, where I have a computer, monitors, everything, lighting. I can create content there. I can study poker there. I have everything prepared for me when I get there, and I know the place already. In Japan, I was having some issues before with the size of my apartment because it's a first floor apartment, 55 square meter, 60 with the terrace, I think. Not too big. So living with my wife, it is way too small. On front of me, I have a lateral glass door that allows me to see the living room and the kitchen. It's not ideal. I can get distracted easily by my wife living in front of me. So this summer, I had the opportunity to buy another apartment in the same building at a higher floor, and I'm creating now another studio where I can work with natural lighting that I don't have in this one, and way more separated from the daily life of everything else. So little by little, I am building spaces in Andorra. I chose that country to become my tax resident. So I became tax resident last year, and I bought a house too. There is the first country where I could get a mortgage based on my business, because as a poker player you cannot get a mortgage, but having a business I could get a mortgage. So I am buying a house, and now I am managing a reform. So I delegated creating the space, and I am managing that from overseas, and I have a consultant company with a power of attorney, so they can do whatever it needs to happen for that thing to end. So after all of this is done, I basically can jump from country to country, keep that kind of freedom I used to have before in a more mature way that will lead to less productivity issues. So that's where I am at now. But that was what I built with a lot of effort before.
Yeah, and a lot of experience as well. A lot of kind of figuring out what you want, and then also creating the situation where you could actually buy these bases, these home bases. I like the terminology there. And yeah, it feels like now almost that you've got that, the best of both worlds. Because as you mentioned, the downside of travel is you're always in new places, you've got to set up. It's not cost effective always to rent short term. So you found the way to travel, but also to have this kind of base where you can be efficient. You've got everything you need in those places. So yeah, sounds like a very GTO way to travel, and especially the way you've organized it now feels like a much less stress version, but also a much more simple, but actually efficient way to do it as well. Rene, for you, I know you ended up in Malta for a long time. What led to you to leave your home country for Malta?
I mean, I've lived in Malta and Brazil. I would say have been and then obviously the Netherlands have been the main places that I've lived for a longer period of time. Moved around some cities. I initially just started traveling because that was fun, right? You got freedom with poker. Netherlands, very cool. So especially in the winter, let's get the hell out of there. And especially in the beginning, it was just with some poker players, renting a house in Malta, having fun. It wasn't necessarily that professional, but then especially if things are not really going your way, poker results wise, and in general, I'm very easily distracted. I need like routines in order for my brain to perform. I've found traveling all the time became quite distracting. You get internet problems. You don't know where, you don't have an apartment, and you have to leave your apartment in 3 days. Yeah, how the hell do you expect to perform well at the poker tables if all these things are going on? So I, at some point, really started to crave like a I guess certainty and like routine. And it wasn't really I couldn't really make it work, like traveling and all of distracting and having a fun life and also being very good at poker. So I kind of locked myself in a little bit at one place in order to perform better. I do think I can make it work if I do it at longer periods of time. It sounds like Elias, stayed, for example, at one place for 6 months or 1 year. That's fine. But if we're talking about month-to-month basis or even 2 or 3 months, that's just too short for me. And nowadays, I just crave a lot of, like certainty, a lot of routine, a lot of repetition. I like the same things. I go always to the same place. I go to the. I like routines, same things. I don't need a lot of change. Listening to your story, Elias, it sounded like in the beginning you're just someone who didn't want the job, right? You liked playing poker. You like the strategy aspect. It sounded like a very great period. Then you found another passion, which was YouTube. That had to be funded, so you created ZerosPoker. You started to expand businesses more and more and more and more. And it sounds like now you kind of want to go back to how things was. Where, like, I heard this quote. I think it was Hormozy who said that it's funny that in the beginning, we invest all our time to try to make money. And then later what we do, we try to invest all our money to get back our time, right? And you said that you wanted to get into poker because you wanted to do what you want to do instead of all the things that you had to do. Does it feel like maybe now or in all the businesses that you built and all the things that you've done that you're kind of back to where you didn't want to be, that you kind of have to do a lot of things and you're trying to work back to where you were basically in the beginning, where you could do things just because you wanted to?
It is basically there was never a perfect situation, at least when I started also creating content, because that needed to be funded. So I'm not trying to go back to just being a poker player, because I found a new passion and I want to do both things. But I have been trying to do both things at the highest level I can, and by trying to accomplish those two things at the same time, I found a lot of issues, like how you pay for it, and how this, and when you make money here, new issues come up, and so many things, right? So in a way, you are right. I'm trying to go back to having more time. But at the same time, I'm trying to go back to a place where I have more time and I can do the two things I want to do at the highest level I can without the issues around it.
Yeah, so you've been using all these years to eliminate the issues and get yourself in a position where you can do that, but even at a higher level, right? So this is like a journey towards creating the life that you'll be able to do everything that you want to do. And in order to do that, obviously it doesn't fall out of the sky, right? In order to do that, you have to go through times where, you have to do things, right? You have to reply to that email of that guy who wanted to change his bank account, right? It's just something
No,
that you have to do.
I can hire people, create systems, and delegate those things to other people to manage. It's just that you need to create a system for every separate issue that might happen in your life, in relationship to your business, to YouTube or whatever else. With age also comes I started thinking more in 10-year, 15-year chunks of life. So one of the things I'm thinking lately is, okay, I'm actually happy that I chose poker as a career, because I can actually play poker being 60 years old or 50 or 45. Obviously, you are more sharp maybe when you are young and when you are just on it, right? But playing live poker the past 2 years, I realized that there is a life in poker that is not only online poker. And I actually did enjoy it a lot. I did enjoy playing all these high roller tournaments, going to European poker tours, and and doing all this traveling and combining that with content, I found there a niche of content that does very well and a kind of lifestyle that is also great if you don't do it all the time, obviously, but a bit of your time. So I'm thinking now about things such as maybe it's time to create a family, maybe have a kid, maybe I should do that trip doing snowboarding in all the mountains of Japan so I get this experience and I make that great content. So I think about these things, and obviously you cannot do everything you want, and at the same time be in the hill. I mean, at the top of the mountain of in every thing you do. But I think about it, and what is the most meaningful life I could have from now on? Where is that? And can I actually be a very, very good high stakes poker player in tournaments, playing live poker, for example, and at the same time have a meaningful life, having a family, having other experiences? And I think you can actually. Because not everything is battling against very strong players. There are tournaments where there are recreationals in super high roller tournaments, and you don't need to play those 12 months per year. Maybe you can play those 6 months per year, and you can make time for everything. And maybe I can take something from entrepreneurship. You have there Elon Musk with so many businesses, and the guy has 13 kids. How does he do it? There must be a way, right? I think so. So I also see time going faster now. I'm not sure if you experience this feeling of, I feel the day goes faster now compared to when I was 20. I feel the day has 21 hours. I don't know if I am the only one feeling that way, but I also know summers when you were in the school felt also like 21-hour days. Summers, they happened so fast, right? It was the fun times. So maybe I'm just having a good life, and this is why it feels it goes fast. I'm not sure, but I am at that point in life where I am thinking about all of these things. Maybe it's time to have a family. I know I am getting closer to having a self-sustained business that can pay for everything, and I can do these things I really wanted to do and pay for them and get some important chunk of my time back so I can do this and this and this. And at the same time, I'm thinking having that back, maybe I don't need to feel in a hurry all the time. So that's a place where I am at right now.
I can relate to the hurry. I was watching back some of your vlogs, and I could definitely relate to certain things that you're like, oh, no, I have to sit down and want to finish this, because then if I finish this, then, I will feel more at peace, or then it's more calm. But then the next thing comes, and then I work on the next thing, and I want to work on it until it's done, because I feel like, then like I said, but then in the meantime, I'm rushing. And I heard there was this quote that said something about rushing to your death or something. And then sometimes when I feel myself hasty or trying to rush towards it, I'm like, wait, I'm rushing towards my death. This is not great. I have to slow down and just appreciate the process, appreciate the little things that I can see. So I try to remind myself of that quote that really stuck with me. Like, oh, I don't want to rush towards my death, right? Why, and you feel like it's sometimes also close. Oh, I just have to do this thing. But before you know it, this thing that you thought would take 1 month suddenly is 1 year. And in that path, other things come that takes another year. And before you know it, you rushed through three years of your life, 3 precious years of your life, right? And especially like you also said, when you get older, I do think you look at time a bit differently, because, when I was 20, I didn't think about, how much time you have left, or, whereas nowadays that I do have a family and you get a bit older, you become more conscious of it. So I definitely can see that it feels like it's kind of going faster. but that's more because you understand the value of it, right? And you have more things, so you understand the value of time more. That's why I feel like it goes faster, because I experience the same thing.
What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors, but I relate to time going faster as you get older. I think as you're younger as well, you're kind of cramming a lot in. You're doing a lot of things. Your time's really full of different experiences. As you get older, you become a bit more routine dominant, as Rene was touching on. And then the things, it feels less of a, because you have less novel experiences, the time seems to pass a bit quicker. I think that's what I can relate to. Because I know when I'm doing lots of stuff and I'm doing novel stuff, time seems to slow down again. It's almost like you're fitting lots of chunks, dopamine chunks into your days, and time goes slowly. But when you're on routines, I think often it can make it go a bit faster. But also I think when you're working towards something, so like you've got like a future goal you're really excited about, you're in the moment, you're trying to make progress towards, sometimes like being caught up in what you're doing can make time go very slowly. I can picture like years of my university career? Was it a career? University studies, where I was just living with my best friends for 3 years, and every day was this massive adventure, and we was having fun. Every day was just really immersed in being present. And those 3 years felt like 10 years looking back, because we was always doing stuff. Whereas as we get older, we project things more to the future. We're working on the project 10 years in the future, and we're chipping away at it. So yeah, my experience has been when you're younger, you're fitting more in, you're more in the moment. That can make time go slower. And as we age, we often end up more routines that makes it feel a bit slower, faster.
I wanted to
It's interesting.
I wanted to touch on about some poker things. You mentioned that you were traveling, playing high stakes MTTs. I know for scoops, W coops, you stream high stakes MTTs. How serious are you about competing in MTTs, or is it mainly the content and brand building aspect about it that plays the bigger role?
It's certainly not for building a brand. So that's not. It's first it comes for. I really like doing this. I really like playing good events, and I really like creating content about it. It's both things at the same time. In relationship about how serious I am to compete, I am working towards having the most time available to actually be able to study and find edge in as many places as I can. And I also think that I think that maybe tournaments play a bit better even than cash with my strengths in a way. I feel that cash games is more math based, and I like play situations sometimes in a more intuitive context way. So tournaments is more about context. So if and I have been, I think I am way better at empathy. I think is the pronunciation compared to math. So I'm more. I'm definitely a logical thinker, but I, for example, I was never good at math at school. I would struggle with math stuff. So I rely more on intuitive thinking, and I think that goes better with tournaments compared to cash games.
Do you have an example of how this strength shows up in, for example, tournaments or in a hand that you played?
So basically, in different phases of a tournament, you might want to completely change the way you build a 3-bet range based on if you are closer to a bubble, for example, you want to reduce the amount of times you can lose the tournament. So in cash games, if you have a strong enough hand, you're just going to 3-bet, and you're just going to balance that with enough bluffs, and you are just going to do certain things in certain boards. In tournaments, you can completely change your game a bit in certain situations to reduce the chance or reduce the amount of times you're going to get busted. So it is way more flexible, the way you play. And of course, the same things that are that matter in cash games do matter in tournaments, but context change things more in tournaments compared to cash games. So this is why I think that diversity of situations play with my strengths a bit more than cash games. That's what I think right now. I might be wrong, I don't know, but I think from my experience, feeling, thinking about how I feel playing tournaments, that's what I kind of feel. I see myself in a safe place playing tournaments in the long term for some reason.
No, I think also obviously longevity wise, and I feel like especially live series, it gets only bigger and bigger. Like you said, also in content, it's easier to create a story around it. It draws more views. So I think naturally it's a form of poker that's easier to promote. And in the end, if it's easier to promote, it will be easier to grow and to be sustainable. Obviously, you were kind of forced into entities for the content reason as well. What do you miss the most about cash games?
The way you can manage your time playing cash games. For example, I am in Japan right now, and one of the worst things about Japan is playing tournaments in Japan itself, because tournaments start at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and they last until 10 a.m. So it completely destroys your life. I know now, seeing the light of the day matters. It matters. It actually matters.
Yeah, I was gonna say most entity players, they go to Costa Rica or something. The Japan was definitely not not an optimal decision in that regard.
Yeah, but when I came to Japan, I was not yet so committed with playing tournaments. I came here actually being a cash game poker player. But this also plays in the seasonal aspect of the way I think. Sometimes there will come a season where I have to stream, and I will make the active effort of living that way for 3 weeks. But generally, when I am in Japan, I will try to do other things, such as studying, making content. So I will try to use the time where I am in a friendly country for streaming. This is one of the reasons I got the home base in Andorra, because actually in Andorra I can stream well, playing tournaments or play tournaments, but not here. And also because the last 2 years I have been playing mostly live tournaments, not so much online. I play online, but seasons.
You mentioned studying. We've talked a lot about systems. How does your study routine look like when you're studying for MTTs and trying to get better? How do systems play in that? And how has those study methods evolved over the years? Obviously, you've been in poker a long time.
So in what relates to pre-flop stuff, all the studying I have done, it was based on, first of all, learning how to use Monker Solver, and then going through situations and trying to understand, okay, see, if the open raise range is this, I should be playing this kind of hands, and structure my game in this kind of way. And I tried to focus a lot on pre-flop game because it was my weaker the weaker part of my game, moving on from cash games. On what relates to post-flop, for sure there are certain things that you will change playing tournaments. You play smaller stack pot ratios. So, for example, if you have a strong hand in cash games and you're deep, you're probably going to do 3 barreling, overbets on the turn. You're going to make the pot bigger so you can put the opponent in a situation where he might lose all the money. In tournaments, sometimes you don't need to do that. So depending on the spot, you might want to change the way you approach a situation. Maybe you have the set and you build the pot in a way that in the turn you have an SPR of 1, and then you check back and you allow the opponent to bluff you. Things like that. So there are certain situations where you're going to change the way you play, but then on what relates to post-flop, one good thing is that because I had to create content for the poker school to fund everything else I was doing, to create that content, because I wanted to make sure that it was right. I was studying everything I was posting. All the hands I would post are hands I previously studied, and I decided what I wanted to talk about that hand. So if in a video there are 25 hands I deeply studied before, and I maybe spent 2 or 3 hours studying for that video. So I feel my understanding of post-flop comes mostly from cash games, from what I knew before, from what I learned creating content and going through my database and everything I played before, from also being curious about how the best players play. So trying to find hand histories of good players and seeing what they do, and trying to understand why they are doing the things they are doing. So all of those things, and also by playing also tournaments, knowing who is good, what they do, you also adapt into the metagame, right? So all of those things are at the same time. I still need to put more time into studying ICM, for example. I think it is something I could learn more of, and I would like to create a season for that this year. Also, I think node locking and creating strategies based on common leaks is something that it became a thing, right? In the past few years in cash games. It is something that I didn't do enough of, or I didn't put my time on that because I didn't need to. It wasn't a priority, let's say. So I feel that's something that could deserve also a season of studying. So I see certain aspects of my game where I could spend a good amount of time with.
It's actually funny. I had the good thing about being a coach or a content creator is that you can combine what you want to do with kind of what you have to do, right? I remember when I always really loved strategy, right? Studying the game. And I was like, I wish someone could just pay me to just always study the game. That's the only thing I want to do. I don't want to grind, right? And then I was like, well, if I start a CFP and if I'm basically the head coach of strategy, all I can do is develop strategies and have them play. They do the grinding, I do the strategy. So they pay me to study poker. How amazing is that? And like for example, if you make content, for example, ICM, you said, if you spend a season on studying ICM, you can basically get those hours paid by translating that directly in a course. You sell it on your ZerosPoker.com. So basically the audience funds you to study and it funds your interest. I thought it was a very interesting way of looking.
There are
at
a lot
of
synergies.
They can basically pay for your pay for your studying time.
That's a synergy right there, and you can think also about being able to find a sponsor, for example. It is the result of building things that allow that to happen. And content creation is a huge enabler. I don't know how to
enabler.
But it opens a lot of possibilities. For example, for human resources, for hiring, YouTube is a huge, amazing tool. So I could find someone for something. I will get 300 emails. So you can be picky, trying to find the best possible person for the job. So there are many ways where actually it is difficult to do many things at the same time, but in a way, if you can make it work, there are certain things that happen thanks to that do have immense value. You know, I think I heard Elon Musk speaking about how valuable it was for him to have a space company, SpaceX, because the effort they need to do to study materials for space, resistant material, light materials, because they want to spend less money on fuel to get the rockets moving up. That was very valuable for him as knowledge that he could put into Tesla, for example. So there are many. So I think it's good to think when you do many things at the same time. It's very important to try to find the learning experiences that you can get from some things you are doing and apply them to others. It's the same thing. You were asking me, how did poker help you with entrepreneurship or with content creation, or how did this strategy game you played as a teenager help you with poker? I was not experienced enough at the time when I was a teenager to really use that properly, but I know a bit more now, right? It's very good to think about your possibilities in that way. Try to find synergies and use your time wisely. There is a little bit of it.
You've built quite a reputation as an educator in the poker space, creating courses, training material. I want to do something a little fun here on the podcast. I wanted to design a little mini course here live on the podcast. I will give you 5 chapters. Okay. And we are trying to help like low to mid stakes MTT players try to move up the stakes. So which topics would you cover in these 5 chapters that would best help low mid stakes MTT players move up?
So are we speaking about players who don't know anything about the game, or
no, they're
they know
like
it?
Usually I would say our audience, especially, to these podcasts, long, deep conversations about people who listen to our podcast are definitely already serious players. Probably at least semi-pro, I would say the majority. They're taking it very seriously. So like low, mid-stakes MTT grinders.
I think preflop game, you can get most of it from GTO charts. And certainly you want to learn about situations where you want to completely change your game based on the situation, based on the bubble. I think post-flop game is the place where most tournament poker players, they have the most to get the most
most
how do I say it, the most leaks, yes, and they can learn the most. It's the weaker point in their games. So in my case, for example, it's not a fair comparison because I didn't move up stakes in tournaments in what relates to post-flop game because of how I studied post-flop, because that I got that from cash games, right? So the way I learned tournaments, it was a bit different compared to the population. For me, it was more about, okay, let's learn what are the differences in the stack pot ratios and how do I want to change my game a bit. But I had the understanding already about how do I want to play certain group of hands in certain situations, and where do I want to apply pressure, where I don't. And for me, it was more about learning the context of situations and trying to be out of trouble also, because in tournaments, it matters a lot also being out of trouble. And
what do you mean with that? Out of trouble, and how can we stay out of trouble?
So what I mean is that in a tournament, 15% of players are going to get into the money, right? So risking your life in the tournament for the goal of just making chips is not always worth it. So obviously you want to make chips, you want to win chips because it matters in relationship with survival. But it's not the only thing that matters. It matters also to remain alive in the tournament. So as a cash game player, one of the leaks I had when I got into tournaments, it was thinking about pretty much all situations as a situation where, okay, how do I get the most chips out of this situation? And many times the right decision was to actually not get into trouble in the first place. So there are certain ICM situations where you are playing with bigger stacks. You have a lot to lose, not a lot to win. You might want to fold this one and not play all the hands that you would play in a cash game. So that's what I mean to be out of trouble. Reducing the amount of times where you will risk your life in the tournament, it can be a good thing. But also, when you get into trouble, you cannot be so weak that everyone can push you around and you will fall. So you also need to learn to be the one applying the pressure most of the times. And when you are the one feeling the pressure, you need to learn to call as well. Obviously, you cannot fall every time. So it matters a lot to be strong in those situations. But sometimes it is even more important to get out of trouble because you didn't need to be there in the first place. So this is something that is a change a bit in mentality compared to cash games where you're looking for the maximum EV possible, even with, I don't know, 6-4 suited against a semi-fish in the hijack, and you're in the cutoff. Maybe it's not the time in a tournament to get into that situation if there is ICM involved or whatever. And this is I think an overlooked topic in tournaments, which is how do I create myself the best chances of survival and the best chances of actually getting into the top 3 of this tournament. When I started playing tournaments, I would have this. I didn't have this understanding like I do now a bit more. So I think that's useful, I guess. Learning what situations you have a lot to lose, not a lot to win. Learning those spots in tournaments, I think, is useful, and it will lead to you having higher chances of getting good prizes. It can be very frustrating when you are not very good in tournaments and you rely on a few days in the year where you will actually make a good amount of money, because in tournaments, your life is 5, 6, 10 days per year. You make a lot of money, and most days you lose, and some days you're break even. It also depends, obviously, in the fields you play. It's not the same to play 5,000 people tournaments compared to 50 people or 60 people tournaments. But the lower stakes you play, I think actually is a good idea for most tournament poker players. So they rely less on luck to play smaller fields, to try not necessarily the biggest poker side, but maybe multi-table in the right stakes, in the right fields, So I think that can be also useful, because in tournaments, sometimes you find yourself playing many different stakes. At least I find myself. Also because when I was an ambassador, obviously I can only play on Poker Stars, and then I would open a 200 buy-in tournament and a 5,000 buy-in tournament at the same time. So you don't have that consistency in the buy-ins you're playing. But for most people, they can have that consistency playing multi-side, and they can even find consistency playing the same type of field. So that's that. And then I think also focusing a bit after they feel they control decently the preflop strategies, I think it pays off well to study how you should structure your game in what relates to post flop.
All right, so we had pre-flop, then you mentioned like the bubble, and in general, right, these type of context consideration. You mentioned post-flop, and then especially the differences between SPR, right, as in the tournament phases. SPR, instead of learning all the stack sizes, try to focus on like what you did. Okay, I know how to play 100 big blinds. What changes if I play 40 big blinds? And then what changes if I play 20 big blinds? AKA, you're trying to understand what does the impact of SPR have on strategies, right? And you then try to apply that to the best of your capabilities. You then said staying out of trouble. And then you talked a lot about the trade-off, win versus losing. And then last, you added like a little bonus tip, right? This little 6th chapter about, I guess, your grind selection. I wanted to actually add something to that. I think it's very important indeed to add maybe also smaller field tournaments to your grind. So you get also more experience in final table dynamics, three-handed play, heads-up play. Because if you're only playing big feuds, and like you said, it's those 5 to 10 times in a year where, this is the moment. If you get there and you don't have any experience of getting there, probably, that will lack. And I think also from a mental perspective, celebrating wins, actually winning some tournaments a bit more often can also gain you some confidence. Yes. And, so you don't stay like, I'm only losing. So, I mean, I've never grinded tournaments, but I can imagine that for me personally, that would definitely be a big deal. And maybe it would cost you some EV purely on paper, but I feel like just the psychological aspect and the experience that you gain of playing more final tables should, I think, increase your ROI in the long term. What is your favorite course that you've ever created? You've created quite a few.
I created I would say my favorite is the one I did analyzing hands for spots. So I was trying to make a video for every line that could happen, like bet on single raise spots on the button. One video. A lot of videos, hundreds of videos.
A lot of videos, not live. So you were just basically going over hands that you played in all lines?
Yes, but to be fair, while I was doing so many things, I created like maybe 150 hours of that, and there was a lot more to that I needed to record. So I end up hiring also because also I didn't feel right to me to continue doing that content for cash games after I stopped playing cash games. So I wanted to hire someone for the job. I actually would say that my favorite teaching content is content that mixes written articles, because as a coach, writing an article about theory of the game, it really forces you to use the maximum you have to offer to find the right words to explain something. So I created, at least in my poker school, 100 pages of articles and theory. And I need to create more of that. So I would like to focus on that, because I was doing a format of content that I think is really nice, which is article plus video with examples. So I explain the theory in a written format and then a video attached to the article with a lot of examples of that theory applied. So I also think in my experience as a coach, different people in certain phases of their poker career, they do need different content. So for example, when you are teaching someone who is starting in poker, I think the most valuable content that you can give to them is sessions, because them seeing you play is the fastest way for them to learn intuition, to learn how to play situations that happen way more often than situations that happen less often. I think it's not effective to focus on theory with people who are still recreationals. I think it's way more effective to teach them through example. So actually giving those people a lot of hours of played sessions, play and explain, let's say, it works very well for them early in their careers, while at the same time you combine it with content that allows them to understand what is going on and build a general understanding of the game good enough so you can actually create content that is a bit more complex after that. So in my poker school, at least I'm trying to structure the content. So this is something I want to do. So I'm working on it now with my developers, but I'm working on, because also people don't like to go to your website and see many courses. They don't like it because they don't know which one they should watch first. They don't like it. But certain courses do have a format, right? So a course of Play and Explain is a format in itself. A course that is written articles with video samples is a format in itself. A course that is, I don't know, analysis with HUD stuff, or a course that is, I filter my database and I find hands in certain spots and I explain those spots. So all of these things are different formats of teaching content. All of them are valuable, but there are differences, and the people who want to watch them are different, and they are in different phases of their career. So I want to work on a system where I could organize all that content from bottom to top, let's say. From the beginning, you start here and then you go up to this place. So basically, I call it organized learning. I want to call it that way, organized learning. So if you are here, start here, and then you go through everything this way. And you, of course, can still filter the courses and go to whatever place you want. But I am working on that this year. And also, I think it's important as a coach to explain why you are teaching the way you are teaching, and try to understand the needs of the client, let's say, the player, and offer them what they are really needing, even if they don't know it. So yeah, I need to work, at least in my case, on more content for the different formats of content that we produce for different types of players. So a lot more content. So this is why I am hiring good professionals to help me. And I want to focus also in the things that I am less likely to get help. People who will, because I also think some poker schools make the mistake of hiring low-level people to teach low-level players. So at least in my case, when I started in NL2 and NL5, I felt that, I was learning from people who were playing NL25. They were a bit higher than me, yes, and I could learn from them, certainly, but it would be better to learn from an LL100 player who is teaching you how to beat NL2, right? They know more of the game. So also I think it's good if you can afford to pay for it, to have teachers in your school who are way above the level they are teaching. So that's something also I want to do, but not always I will be able to find an NL200 or high stakes player willing to teach to micro stakes players. So in those situations, I will be the one doing it because it is my own business. So I care enough about it to do it myself. So I will try to create that value for beginners. Also, I know that because I am a content creator on YouTube and my audience grew large, so I do have a lot of beginners. So the base of my poker schools are mostly beginners, and they want to watch me, most of them. So also I think my time is more valuable teaching them in general. So the kind of content that you cannot delegate easily, written articles, very difficult to delegate, or teaching to beginners, things like that, those are the things I will be focusing most of my time on until those pieces of content are completed. Then look, day by day, day to day, the future of the school will be in hands of people creating advanced content, live streamings, teaching members, and events and things like that. That's what I am thinking.
Yeah, you touched on something that I definitely think there's a big need in the poker education market. This is something that me and Adam, we tried with our Mechanics of Poker program, because there's a lot of information out there, right? And like you said, people don't want to have a lot of things. So we just have one program, Mechanics of Poker program, which is a clear learning path from beginning to end. We teach you everything you need to know in order to succeed in poker, just one place. Instead of just like, oh, here's a video about this, here's a video about this. If it's all connected, right, and thought out, it's way easier for the student to follow, right? Whereas, for example, you have a run it once, they say, okay, join us, you get 5,000 videos. Yeah, okay, well, where do I start, you know? I'm sure some individual videos, they might be interesting, but also sometimes, like, what's missing is, okay, where is the base, right? Whereas in, for example, our program, I know what I explained earlier, and I know why I explained it there, so I can now talk about something else because you've already seen that, right? So I feel like that really improves the learning experience. You talked about what content enables you to do, right? We talked about the value of content. ZerosPoker is now closing in on, I think, 500k subs on both channels, which is obviously huge, right? Massive brand. What do you think is the biggest value of building a brand? I know I see some poker players, they suddenly, they start to open a YouTube channel, start taking their Instagram more serious because they do see some value in it. What do you think is the biggest value, maybe both more obvious, but also a bit more the not so obvious values of building a brand for yourself?
I think building a brand is something you should do for the right reasons most of the times. But I'm not sure if I am being a bit, if I'm comparing myself to population of I wanna be content creators. But for me, creating content comes out of passion for actually creating content. I do like it. I do enjoy it. I enjoy the process of making a better video with my team and working together for that to happen. And it is very rewarding when you make happy your audience, and they are there for you because they spend a lot of time watching you, so they do care about what you have to say and whatever is going on with your life. Of course, I think it's important to have a very healthy relationship. So there are certain things you want to keep your distance. In my case, for example, family stuff, things like that. But I also think it's important to become a content creator because you have not, at least if you want to be successful, because I think it's very difficult to become successful if you are not open to be yourself and to share your real thoughts with your audience, right? You told me before you realized when I was creating videos explaining why I was doing whatever, playing against you, how you realized that I was actually open to explaining my thinking process about certain things. This was a difficult decision because obviously you could just say whatever random thing to keep your strategy to yourself or the real reason why you do something to yourself. But I made the conscious decision of being totally open with my audience in everything I was doing. At the time, being completely honest with you, there was no strategy behind that decision. It was just, okay, I'm just going to do this because I feel better creating content this way. But now I think about it, I learned a lot about YouTube over the years. I do know now that if I wasn't open, it is highly likely I would not be where I am right now. So building a brand, very valuable, super valuable. A lot of opportunities will come with it. If you can have a good relationship with an audience, you are not in bad places in what relates to being in dramas and shit like that is a good thing. But I think you need to enjoy it. I think it matters that you do enjoy it. I know it's becoming a huge thing for business owners to create a personal brand. A huge thing because people buy from people they know most of the time. So that's a powerful thing. But I think some business owners come across as fake people a bit because of how their intentions are clearly there, and people are they know, people are not dumb. They know what you are doing, what you are trying to do most of the time. And if you are able to hide it, it's highly likely at some point they will find out, and then you are done because you are a fake person, and that's what you cannot be, right? So
So you have to hide behind your passion, sort of.
A bit, yeah. I think you need to do it out of passion. And if you build a brand, be honest about the things you don't want to talk about and why. Even if you are not saying what those things are, but try to be honest about something, But I don't know, if you want to build a personal brand and you sell, I don't know, vaccines for a random disease that doesn't exist, in the first place, you are a fucking shit person. So you have no business having a personal brand in the first place. Obviously, you cannot speak about anything you feel, anything you are doing, because everything is for a bad reason, right? So there will be that too, right? People who try to create a personal brand because they're in the pursuit of money or whatever other reason. If you are selling a product, you better care your product is good. If you care about your product being good, you can speak about that and you can maybe try to build a brand around it. But you better have a reason to speak in the first place, right? So I think that's also important, right? Also, many people try to build a YouTube channel without having anything to say at all. They're just there. Yes, I see this guy making money, making YouTube videos. I want to do that too. In my case, I was sharing my passion for poker and, even more important, my passion for the way I was living. So there was a reason for that content to be there. And it happened to be something that was not being made in the Spanish-speaking community. And the way we evolve the content is also not it's very original, I would say. There are not many content creators doing that kind of poker content. So you need a reason to speak. People need a reason to watch you. You better find those two reasons, I think.
That's very valuable advice. Like you already said, like a brand comes with various opportunities, right? And especially in poker, we look for different opportunities, both to grow personally. If I speak for myself, like one of the reasons why I started to do other things is to grow in different areas. And like you said, many opportunities come your way. You don't know which ones those are going to be, right? But I noticed that as the brand goes bigger and as our audience goes bigger, I get more emails with people wanting to collaborate or, maybe 9 out of 10 times is nothing, but sometimes it's like, hey, this is pretty interesting. Otherwise would not have come on your path, which was actually one of the big reasons why I started to venture out and doing this kind of things. I didn't have one specific thing in mind, but I figured like, I'll probably learn a bunch of things along the road, and who knows what will come, right? Now, many players, they're interested, in creating multiple streams of income using this brand. For yourself, how many different types of streams of income do you currently have in your business, and which one do you think is most rewarding? And I would also actually be interested in like which income stream do you think is a pain in the ass and you would not recommend people going for? So I guess advice in which income stream you should expand to and which income stream you should definitely not expand to based on your experience.
What is your favorite poker hand?
My favorite poker hand?
Yeah.
That I've ever played, you mean?
No, your favorite poker hand to play with pre-flop.
Oh, 5-4 suited, man. Spades.
No, you don't prefer aces?
No. That's an answer that's well allowed. In my streams and in my content, you cannot say aces. It's
Okay,
5-4 suited.
if it is not a strong hand, I like ace 5 suited. But it's a fun hand for things to happen. But so the logical answer is obviously whatever makes the most money is the best stream of income. But the emotional answer is not that one. I would say actually it's very rewarding. This 3-4K that comes from YouTube, even if it is the smallest stream of income that I have, those 3-4K are like, okay, here's my 2 rents or my whatever. So it's like, so that one is rewarding because it comes with a lot of effort and it's not a lot. It's a very small thing compared to the expenses.
And it can still be a lot compared to what it used to be because you've seen the number grow over time, right? So obviously the absolute amount might not make a big difference in your current income. I can understand that with all the effort you put in and you've seen it grow, it feels like a lot.
No, but for an English-speaking poker content creator, it would be 20K per month.
No, yeah, but still for you, it can feel, in the past, it was only 500, right? You've seen the number grow. And like you said, YouTube is probably what you're most passionate about. So.
Yeah, the thing is that now I cannot separate that from the expenses I know that I do spend for that.
Yeah, it's not going to cover the 600 to 700K costs you mentioned earlier of employees.
People.
It's not going to cover it.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the biggest stream of income I have is the subscriptions in the poker school, the monthly subscriptions. The second one is the income from affiliate stuff. The other income, but I cannot really, for NDA reasons, to speak about income from sponsors, but that one was very big too. And other incomes.
Obviously, like starting a whole school with subscriptions, paid model.
I mean,
quite a lot of work. Affiliate already seems like actually easier form.
The money from poker actually feels the best. Last year I had my best year. I won over $1 million. So I'm very happy about that, and that felt super good too. So money from poker is actually even the most rewarding. You know what happens with money from poker? That I cannot separate it from even if I am speaking about the net income, I cannot separate it from the downswings and the upswings and the whole mountain of changing results. So in a way, I see it as unstable compared to other streams of income that are pretty much the same every month. So in entrepreneurship, income is way more certain than as a poker player. So yeah, I guess that's the answer.
Which income stream would you recommend people not to try, given your experience?
One that you hate whatever you have to do to make it. Right?
Yeah, so like you said, your subscriptions in your poker score are the biggest, but if you hate teaching, then you should probably not do it.
Yes, you should. Or you should do it. I mean, would you advise anybody on the audience to leave their job to play poker if they don't even know if they're going to achieve the goal of becoming professional poker players? Probably you wouldn't. You will say to them, okay, you do this job that you don't like. You better make sure you can pay for your own life for at least 6 months, 1 year, or even more. If you have a family, you better make sure you are a good dad or whatever. So you better make sure everything is all right with your life. And then those 4 hours that you waste every day, or those 2 hours that can become more efficient, you really hate what you are doing, use that as motivation to put all of those hours into something new and develop a skill, develop whatever you need to develop to actually create for yourself a new life. So I think the kind of guru, you should follow your dreams, you should do whatever makes you happy. I think it's important to combine it with certain aspects of you better make sure your life is in a good place before you do something that is risky, right? Because when I think about my early poker career, I was in my third career that I left the first year or two. I started playing poker more seriously between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. every day when my mom was sleeping. I was actually studying university at home because my mother told me I will not spend more money for you to go to a city where you can study this career. You left two careers. I'm not going to spend more money on this. You have to study, but you will do it at home. So I would literally play poker at night for 6-7 hours every day when she was sleeping because she would not approve me doing that. But I was at the same time doing the other thing, right? And then after a few months, 5-6 months, I got maybe a 2K, 3K bankroll. I moved to a house with 4 other friends for a small room that cost me like 200 euros per month. So you can build from wherever you're at a new life, right? But at the same time, it's easier for someone who is studying, right? You have a roof, you have a house where you can live. Your family gave you that. But if you are older and you pay for your own life and you have a job or whatever, you better make sure you're safe and people who rely on you are safe, right? But at the same time, yes, I think you should make sure you use your time wisely so you can create the life you want because it's worth it. It's 100% worth it.
Wise words, Adam. Any questions you have for Elias around this topic?
Not quite this topic, but I want to segue a little bit into reflecting on your career or careers, plural, we should call it. And yeah, first one was, what has been an important lesson that you've learned through your poker journey that has set you up for life?
I would say logical thinking. Trying to understand the reasons why things happen around you, why people say the things they say, what are the intentions behind what they say. I for some reason, in a very unproductive way, I always try to make the best decision for the most stupid things. I will do this is crazy, but I will do competitions of buying eggs from different supermarkets to find the most delicious eggs, competitions of the best avocado brand in this particular place, and then I will find the best of the best, and I learn how to I approach every decision on okay, what are the options available, what works the best for me, what I'm seeking out of whatever. When I bought my house in Tokyo, I made a list of things my house needed to check all those things. So not near a huge road with noise. Not these 2 bedrooms for sure. I need a 1 bedroom for my studio. I don't want to work in the same place I sleep or in the same place I eat. Things like that, right? So based on the situation I was in at the time, logical thinking, make the right decision. But now I am trying also to distance myself from caring a lot because it's too much. It can become a bit obsessive. But being a logical thinker I find myself very surprised when I read certain things on X or social media from people who clearly don't know what they are saying, or emotionally driven conversations. First of all, you're not understanding where he's coming from. The other guy is not understanding what the other guy is thinking. You both are way too dumb to have a conversation and understand each other. Why do you even talk? That kind of thing. You know what I mean? Logical thinking.
Great
I
answer.
think it's what I got from poker.
How do you deal with people who don't think as logically? So as you're running a team, managing people, I'm sure you run into people who don't have that same logic framework. How do you, communicate, but also have interactions with people who maybe don't have a logical background?
You fire them very fast.
This is not going to work. You're out.
At the end, what matters when you hire someone is that somebody, whoever he or she is, can do the job you are hiring that person for, right? So as long as the job is being done in a good way, it doesn't really matter as much if they are logical thinkers or emotionally driven, particularly in content creation, because art is heavily related with emotional personalities. And myself, I know I am emotional too, but at the same time, I can combine that with logical thinking. I find very annoying when someone wastes my time, for example, to tell me emotionally driven reasons why they should get a higher salary. Fuck you. It's not my fucking problem, whatever is going on in your life, so you want more money from me. And I am a very generous boss, I would say. I pay very well. But I hate that approach. Okay, tell me what are you doing to deserve more money? Approach it that way. So these were the expectations. Have you met them? Are you here? And I was expecting you to be here? Okay, then we talk. That's logical thinking in a way. But I hate when people try to use emotional manipulation to get out something from you. So those kind of people I find that are the people who are more likely to so I don't like them, let's say. I don't know. People who waste my time for emotionally but don't get me wrong, I don't have any issue listening to someone who has a problem if they are not asking for something in return. I hate the manipulation aspect of it, let's say. So that's where emotional thinking becomes a problem. When the person is not rational enough to understand the situation, and they try to, I don't know. This emotional reasoning is totally against logical thinking in many ways, not only in job-related stuff, speaking with your boss, in many other things, in just what I was saying before, people talking to each other and understanding each other. You need to be able to separate yourself from whatever you're speaking and your emotions and try to understand who are you speaking with. What do they want? What do they believe? That comes from poker too. You need to think, what is this guy doing here? What is he playing with? What are the groups of hands he has? If I do this, what he will do with 70% of his range? He will fold? Maybe I need to bet. That's logical thinking that comes from poker. In most conversations in life, you see a lot of people speaking with each other for, at least in their private life, mostly emotional reasons. And I would say it's not a huge problem for me in my company in what relates to business relationships, because at the end of the day, we are speaking about things that are related with the job they are doing. So that's totally appropriate. But for people in general, I think approaching life in a more logical way is helpful. I think it's good. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, poker kind of instills in you that logical way of approaching problem solving on many situations. And when people lack that, they can be frustrating to deal with because you almost haven't got a baseline to speak on. But yeah, I really like the kind of the way you went through that kind of question in terms of valuing other people who have emotional sides and how that helps with creativity, but also like there's elements of being logical where to have conversations on certain topics, there needs to be a logical framework to kind of get to an outcome, which I think poker instills in you very well. So I'm quite obsessed at the moment with the concept of reinventing yourself and being able to mold and change your identity over time. You've made quite a lot of these changes, so I'm curious to know how you reflect on those. So you've gone from a grinder to a content creator to an entrepreneur. How hard have you found it to make those big pivots and identity changes, and what goes with that? By this, I mean, when we change our path and our role, we also change like the stories we tell about ourselves. I think Rene touched on this earlier as well, like giving up that kind of cash game personality or identity. It seems easy, but it's actually quite challenging to do that. You've done 3 big pivots that I can picture. How has it felt to make those changes for yourself?
So the first one that was difficult is the one Rene mentioned, which is I am a cash game, high stakes poker player. And changing that to I am not anymore a high stakes cash game poker player, that was painful. Because you attach a big part of yourself to, a big part of your worth to that thing. So you experience that with discomfort, I would say. But as time goes, that discomfort becomes smaller. The problem comes when you make a change and that change leads to frustration. So, for example, imagine that I will share my how I felt certain things. I take the action of changing my life in many ways, and I expected to do that in 6 months, and then I am in a place where I want to be, and then build from there. But actually, that doesn't happen in 6 months. It happens, or it doesn't even happen in 2 years. And you are just there 2 years after. I made this huge decision that I thought led to a 6 months change, but I'm 2 years in. I am solving problems I didn't know that they existed before. They just appear suddenly. I'm just here. Changing this fucking IBAN from this guy who wants to change his bank account, and a lot of things come from inexperience, from not knowing enough about the things you are doing. Because if I knew before what I know now, day one I am delegating as fast as I can. Delegating as fast as I can. And the first trip I do to Hong Kong to create my company, that I base it there, I bring someone and I give them access to the bank account and I make them sign a contract, and I don't do it myself. I hire someone else to do it. So, so everything is attached and properly working well. And there is a system in place for them to pay and for them to not be able to pay somebody who they shouldn't pay or have access to money they shouldn't have. So I would approach life completely different. I would be way more focused on understanding my resources, the money I have, and how should I spend it, so I can put my time properly in the things I actually need, the things that I can only do myself, which is most of the times the maker time, creating the product, or creating the time for being a poker player, or creating the time for studying or making a course or making a video, whatever it is. So yeah, did I respond everything, or there was something else?
Yeah. From that, I got change is often a bit messy. It's not like a linear thing.
Yeah.
And it can be frustrating, especially when you have expectations of how those changes should go. And then you get caught up in the kind of the messy middle of trying to solve new problems and the frustration of that. And the lesson you've learned through that process for yourself is delegating quicker, knowing your resources, getting those kind of jobs off your plate that creates frustration, annoyance, so you can go back to the real reason you made this change, back to that kind of maker time in being creative. So yeah, I can relate to that as well. And I feel like when we do change, often we have the expectation of something amazing. It's like, oh, I'm going to make this big change. But we also have like the fear of what if it's not? And then when we start doing it, we realize, shit, we're kind of out of our depth here, because every time you start something new, you haven't got the skills yet to execute well. I think a lot of people get kind of trapped in that kind of half in, half out without kind of taking that kind of big leap. So I think from your stories, you've obviously been someone who's experienced the same kind of feelings, but you've just jumped into stuff and you've solved the problems on the fly. Then over time, you found systems and delegations that makes it quicker and more efficient. So yeah, very good lessons there. All right, another question is, what does success look like for you today? How would you define success for you?
Success looks like living my life in a way that I don't do things I don't want to do, but at the same time, I have the most time to do the actual things I want to do, and those things are related with building things. So I find a lot of satisfaction out of the creation process of something. It can be a strategy, studying something, it can be a video, but the creation part of things, I find a lot of satisfaction out of that. I can spend countless hours creating, but I do hate the management aspect of what comes with being a creator, right? Or having a business. So for me, I think I will find myself in the best situation when everything around me is prepared for me to create and to not be disturbed by those tasks that could actually be done by somebody else. I mean, at least I made that the goal of my life in the past 6-7 years. So I'm choosing to do this career path, having these issues with the lack of knowledge I had. Okay, what do I do? I did what I could and what I knew, and I learned along the way. So I hope I can find myself in a much better spot every month that passed. Because now I am thinking about life and issues. So we have in Spain a game which is called hot potato. If you have you play with friends. If you have the hot potato, you need to pass it to somebody else, and then the one who has it at the end of the game lose, right? So I think about problems that I don't want to have as a hot potato. So I'm thinking, okay, I have a hot potato right here. Who do I pass it to? Do I need to hire someone for this hot potato to be managed? So I'm having this kind of thinking process right now of learning issues and trying to solve those issues. Issues are a hot potato. If you really don't want your life to be about that issue, you better find a way for that issue to be solved and not by you.
What would you say is the highlights of your poker career, or the proudest moments?
So in what relates to poker, I can think of a couple, let's say. I think that being able, so there was certainly a learning path from being let's say a poker player who was making 2 or 3 big blinds doing the Supernova Elite to actually playing games that were tough, like with very strong players and at higher levels. Even if I didn't continue that path in life and I changed, I find the development I had to live as very meaningful for me. I learned a lot. And also in my poker career, I find meaning after winning my few first big scores and win events. So I won a couple of scoops, one W Cube. Last year I won 25K high rollers. And a few other results, of course. It's that moment of realization that, okay, I'm here. I'm playing against these strong guys. I'm part of them. You know, that feeling is rewarding, very rewarding for me, because it's my goal today. My goal today is being able to compete and create content at the same time, playing at a very high level, which is, I think, the most difficult goal for any content creator who plays poker and creates content about poker. And that's the most difficult thing to achieve, I think, being able to be good at two things at the same time. In what relates to content creation, I also find a lot of, let's say, meaning, and I feel proud of what we have been able to achieve in the past 2 years, because we learned enough about content creation, about poker formats, so we could actually move the channel to a more mainstream category of content, of poker content. So it was difficult. One thing you need to consider it is that in the Spanish-speaking market, poker is not a game we grow up with. You know, poker is not a thing in the Spanish culture. It's an American thing. So Americans do play poker with their families, or they do know the game maybe since they are kids. But in the Spanish-speaking market, that doesn't happen. And also, poker was never mainstream in the Spanish-speaking market. So I think it's a lot easier to create a big poker channel if your potential audience is 10 times or 20 times higher. It's just a much bigger niche. So being able to create content that is watched by an average of 250, 300K people, at least in the last few years, even more, I think I have reasons to feel proud about that, because that was actually a difficult achievement, and there is a lot of work. So me and my team could do that. So those were all of those things I feel proud of, being able to compete and being able to create content at this level, both things. And everything I do relates to being able to spend more time on those two things, because the more time I have, the better I can do those two things. At least now, that's where I am at.
Amazing. Well, congratulations to you. As we've spoke about on this conversation, it is not easy to multitask multiple things, to be a content creator at a high level and a poker player at a high level whilst running a successful business is very hard to juggle. So amazing for you to have found ways to, in your way, excel in both of those simultaneously. And yeah, for you right now, what does the future hold? Where do you see yourself in the next year or so? You mentioned a lot of stuff about delegation and systemizing your businesses. How do you see your role in poker over the next year or so?
So this is a year I want to spend for two main things. One would be making my business strong and independent from me. But that means I also need to spend a lot of time creating content for the poker school, but also create a lot of systems and make sure I structure my company the right way. The second part of the year, I want to spend it mostly on studying the game of tournaments more deeply. So I can, in 2026, start playing more diverse tournaments. One of the decisions I made last year, it was that after my contract ended with PokerStars, if I come back to play live poker tournaments, and I think I should, because I think it is the best content I can make, and it allows me to play at a very high level while I create content at the same time. But this year I want to play mostly online to practice and prepare for that. I need to be able to fund that myself with my own companies. I don't want to rely on others. I don't want to have a company who does not allow me to go to certain events from competitors. So I think to reach the next level in content, I need to go to the best event available at all times. It doesn't matter who is the organizer. And I need to develop a few relationships that I hope I can develop. For example, I do not yet have the relationships I need to record content in places like Triton or WSOP, but I think the incentives are there for them to get exposure in a big channel. So maybe I can make that happen. But I would like to attend and make content out of those events too, with the same level of freedom we have creating content with Poker Stars. If Poker Stars did see the value and it was very worth it for them, I think other companies will see it too. So I want to be able to fund all of that myself without help. So I can do whatever I want. So I can do a snowboarding trip for a month and I can also share that and pay for it. And it does not matter.
Exciting times ahead. So this has been a very far-ranging conversation. We've really enjoyed it and you've shared a lot of valuable insights. What would you like the main takeaway to be for the audience today?
So I accepted this podcast mostly to get the perspective of Rene as a competitor on many things we talk about today in relationship to manage a career, life decisions, and many other things. I don't do podcasts often, so I actually accepting was something like I would not do it. I probably will not do it this year again or next year. I usually don't go into other channels. I do my own thing. And I did enjoy it because both of you, I respect both of you. You are clearly people who know their stuff, and I enjoy having a conversation with two smart people about deep topics. So that's one of the things I could get from both of you that I probably could not get from many others interviewers or podcasters, I would say. Main takeaway, I enjoyed. I also knew I could share with you things that nobody else would ask or care about. So this whole period of changing the game I was playing, creating content, this whole period between 2017 and to today, it is a period of my life that I could share with you more easily compared to other formats of content. I would not do it for my own channel. I don't think it would perform well because people don't care a lot about what you feel or what you or why you do things in a deep way. They just want the fun, right? And a lot of these things we discussed today are not the fun, but some people who really care about their careers, who really care about their life decisions, will find this useful. So yeah, that's my main takeaway. I think we created value, so that was worth it.
I do too. And yeah, we really appreciate you spending the last 3.5 hours with us. We know you don't do this often, but the audience who like to go deep will have a very good time listening to this conversation. So yeah, we appreciate your time and thank you very much.
Great conversation. Thank you, Elias, for sharing your very diverse journey. As first starting in poker, then transitioning into all these other things to now transitioning to poker again. He's done a lot. Adam, main takeaways?
Yeah, it was a great conversation. A lot of different topics to what we normally cover. Recurrent theme for me was around freedom and about how much time and energy he spent on creating the life he wants. If you look at the life he lives now, it looks amazing. He's got these home bases around the world, but he's also been thinking about how to create freedom for a long time in terms of traveling around, trying to find different places. And it's been points of that where it's got quite complicated. He's almost like overcomplicated things, but he's got a point now where he's able to live the life he wants through delegating stuff, through systemizing stuff, and through basically just that overarching theme of what do I want my life to be like? What things do I enjoy doing? So right now he enjoys content, he enjoys playing poker, and it's quite interesting to see someone who's quite obsessive about this is what I want to spend my time doing. Nothing else will get in the way. And I think this whole year for him is going to be about creating systems and systems to delegate stuff and to basically remove himself from the things he doesn't like with the current business model of content creation and running a business, so he can get back to the freedom of doing what he enjoys, which right now is playing poker and creating content on YouTube, which then goes into the kind of systems approaches. I asked him to relate creating systems to poker players, and his main ones were basically having time protected, understanding your performance habits and health. You mentioned sleep, you mentioned food, you mentioned exercise, using your time efficiently, and then systemizing that into a way you can be productive. But overarching theme of that was basically commit to poker fully, have that drive to want to succeed, and create systems that allow you to perform, be there at the tables, and do that consistently. Next one I really found interesting was the seasons. I really found it interesting about almost like a time planning, time management system of thinking about what you want to achieve over a year. And he talked about synergy between seasons. So one season would be a certain thing you do, and that would lead into the next season. And that got me thinking about how athletes think about their years. They periodize their training towards certain tasks. And it got me thinking, what are my seasons? What would my 3 or 4 seasons of the year be? If I was intensely doing one thing for a period of time, what would those 2 to 3 things be? For poker players, it's often a bit simpler, but you can still have seasons of studying, seasons of intense grinding, seasons of other things. So I thought that was very interesting. And then, overarching theme of passion as well. Passion for what you do. Right now, his passion's very much towards creating content, but also he's got the passion to go back into learning poker at a high level. And I think that was kind of a recurring thing I was thinking about, how he's driven to still want to learn, to still want to improve, to still want to put content out there. He hasn't really got like an end goal of this is where I want to get to. He just enjoys the pursuit. He enjoys what he's doing. And I thought it was very refreshing to listen to somebody who's been in poker for 15 plus years to still have that kind of, not beginner's enthusiasm, but that passion for what he does, what he puts out there, and to, kind of be driven to perform at a high level, both as a content creator and also as a poker player. And as we touched on, that's a hard balance to juggle. How about yourself, Rene? What were the main takeaways for you?
Yeah, the end goal was kind of to create time again, right? I thought that was really ironic, and I also wanted to highlight that yes, he wants to structure his life so he can do whatever he wants to do, but he's also not dirty to put in the work, right? He puts in the hours. Like when I was doing some research on him, I saw that he went to Georgia for 6 months and he literally worked 24/7, okay, for 6 months straight to get some sort of project done, so that he's trying to set everything in a way up that he can live the life that he wants, right? We all want the life, but I definitely think he's a good representative of, you have to put in a lot of work to get a life like that, right? For example, you mentioned the school as kind of a funding of his project that he really wants to do, right? Which was playing poker and create content around it. But for that, it costs a lot of money, right? So then he had to build his business for that. So I think there was just a lot to learn from him. In terms of poker strategy, obviously we touched on a lot of other things as well, because I definitely think Elias has so much more to offer. Whereas, for example, we could talk a bit more about poker strategy specifically with other guests. So we wanted to make sure that we cover a lot of the other areas as well. He did shine a light on terms of studying, for example, instead of trying to memorize how 10 BB, 20 BB, 40 BB, 100 BB plays. He really went from, okay, what do I know? Well, I'm a cash game player. I know post-flop play. So what changes? Well, we're going to play a lower SPR. So he studied, okay, what kind of impact does SPR have on my strategy? And then you take those concepts and you start applying them. So it's a way more efficient way of studying. He touched on staying out of trouble, right? That was one of the points in the little mini course that he gave. And he was mainly talking about the ICM and the bubble phase. Watch out that you don't get into trouble. He talked about the trade-offs, wins versus lose. On one side, you want to survive, right? But on the other side, if it's worth it, you want to also set yourself up to win the tournament, because that's where the big money is. He also talked about like selection in terms of field size, whereas bigger field size, they can make you more money, but also increase the variance. So to also add some lower field sizes in there, so you can experience wins and also get more experience playing final tables, so that when you do get into a big final table at a bigger field, you have more experience. And in the end, also, we touched on the brand, right? I asked him, well, what's the value of the brand? Should people start a brand? And he said, well, it depends for the reasons you do it, right? If you come across with the right passion. He really talked a lot about authenticity as well, right? That you have to do it from the right frame. And he kind of sees like, if you do it for the wrong reason, people will see through you and it will not succeed. So long conversation, a lot of knowledge for you guys. If you stayed away all to the end, I appreciate you guys. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Remember, if you want to work with me and Adam, have us help you make more progress in your poker career, mechanicsofpoker.com. Shout out to our sponsors, GTO Wizard and Coinpoker. And I will see you guys in the next episode.